Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Representative Joe Jordan. I represent the 44th District, which is Waianae, Makaha, Makua, Kaena. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. This is a town hall meeting and the focus will be on education. We have 3 different groups that are going to be presenting this evening, as well as myself. We got a couple things that I want you to be mindful of. One of them is if you didn't come in, we like to keep how good we're doing, how bad we're doing, and how better we can get. So at the top of this piece of paper that you were handed when you walked in, we're filming this evening with Olelo. It will be shown on Olelo, and we have the dates at the top. We have my contact information at the top. If you have concerns or questions later on, you might think about something next week, feel free to email or call us. We will direct it to the presenters and get you a response back. The bottom half of this is just a simple couple questions. What you like, what you didn't like, and then how you got informed of the meeting. We'd appreciate if you would hand this in before you leave. It helps us get better at our meetings. So, with that being said, thank you for joining us. All my speakers are with me. We do have a full house. If you need housekeeping, if you need to use the restrooms, men's and women's restrooms are on this side of the building in the back. If you need any help, Lehua will be at the front. She's my office manager. She joins me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns. We are going to do a little bit of different format tonight because I want to make sure all the presentations get done. So I'm going to ask you to hold your questions or comments till after all the presentations are done. If you should think about something while we're talking, Lehua had little cards. You can write it down. Feel free to hand it to her or wait until we go into the Q&A portion. We're going to do about 1 hour of presentations and then we'll go into Q&As. And we'll hold about half an hour of, questions and answers. My last meeting went a little bit long and we couldn't get to everybody's questions, so we're going to change it up a little bit this time. So we'll start off with my presentation, and hopefully I can keep it short and sweet because I think you guys want to hear more from my guests than me. But anyway, okay, technology. First of all, we'll be talking about mostly the Department of Education. That would be the D as in dog, OE. We'll be talking about the Board of Education, that is B as in boy, Board of Education. And we have Kamehameha Schools here this evening to talk about the Kapua initiative, which is being formulated on the Waianae coast and has been probably for the last 2.5 years. So, just to give you a little bit of background, our state budget, our operating budget, and you see it, $12 billion a year. So when you look at this, we did a simple graph. One of the largest departments in our budget is Medicaid. The second largest would be DOE, Department of Education. They get a large chunk of our budget. This is just breaking down some of the smaller departments. So if I compare the Department of Education with, let's take sorry, that went way ahead. Let's say we have, again, technology, shame on me, with agriculture. The Department of Agriculture, out of our budget, gets $45 million. Just to give you a comparison with Department of Education and the Department of Ag. This is all means of financing. That would be your tax dollars, your federal dollars, any grant monies that come into our budget system. It's kind of broken down into different departments. So if I look over here, which is very difficult to see, END, that stands for education, AKA Department of Education. They roughly have just shy of 20,000 employees. These are full-time employees. Their fiscal budget for this year that the legislature gave them is $1.7 billion, which we did short them a little bit. They will talk about that. Thank you. This is a budget overview for 1 year, 6.2 million again. DOE comes in at about 1.4, and this is fiscal year 14. That started July 1st of this year. So our fiscal year runs from July 1st of 13 all the way to June 30th of 14. So this is basically what's telling you what we allotted, the legislature allotted to all our different departments. And again, this is all general funds. This is actually your tax dollars. So out of your tax dollars, 1.3 billion versus the previous slide said 1.7 billion. So the other 400 million comes from federal funds, granting sources. This I just wanted to let you know. Everybody heard about the 5% cutback that all the state employees took to help us survive. We had new contracts that were negotiated during session. Everybody got their 5% back, plus increases over the next couple years. So this is just to give you an idea. HGEA, HST, UPW, those are the 3 bargaining units that operate in your DOE system. Mostly everybody hears about HST, Hawaii State Teachers Association. This is telling you they're going to cost another $43 million in 14, another $73 million in 15, and it will increase as we go for a grand total. That's their increases of their 4%, whatever they negotiated in their budgeting operations. So this is to let you know that yes, that's what their contract's going to cost the taxpayers. Same thing with HGEA. These are the increases, and UPW. This is just give you an idea of what it costs the state when we go into these negotiating contracts. I know everybody wants to know, so what we getting out here? We don't care about what everybody else is getting, what we getting out here. So this past legislation, we got CIP, which is capital improvements. That's when we make a major improvement to your school. We build a new building, we put a new roof, we put in a new parking lot. That's a capital improvement project. If I'm in there to fix your toilet, that's not a capital improvement project. That's regular R&M, repair and maintenance, different categories. Some people might say this is the goodies. But the goodies don't come if you don't get it in legislation. It doesn't hit that final bill, which is our budget bill, and it doesn't get released by the governor and then the DOE. So there's many, many steps before this money gets anywhere. So out of this last year, and remember, we're working on 2 years, we got $500,000 for the planning and designing of the new administration building for Waianae Elementary School. I became your legislature in 2011. I went to go visit every one of our principals. One of the first principals I spoke to was Mr. Wataoka from Waianae Elementary School. What do you want, sir? Joe, we need an administration building for our school. Why? Because we're operating out of 4 classrooms, Joe, for my principal's office, my staff office, everything, my health room. And then he told me that building that the administration was housed in burned down almost 13 years ago, and we never had one. So we got $500,000 for the planning and design, which should be released before July of next year. And then we asked for $4.5 million for construction monies to build that building for him. $500,000, I went and talked to Waianae High School. And this was their request. Sea Rider Productions wants to merge the 2 buildings over there, their SP and the T building. So we weren't as fortunate to get $5 million, but we got $500,000, which is a start. And this will be for planning and design. $1.5 million to replace the wooden bleachers with aluminum bleachers. If anybody's been to any of the football games, we finally got to replacing the concrete bleachers. Now we have little wooden ones that are on the other end, which is a vital part to keeping our graduation at Waianae High School. And they've been deteriorating for years and years and years. Thankful to, outside sources and community volunteers that keep hammering them and painting them for us. So now we're going to get $1.5 million to replace them with aluminum bleachers. Hopefully they will hear our cry and say there'll be movable bleachers instead of stationary bleachers. Let's go back. We want to hear the goodies, right? $11.8 million for the Allied Health Building at UH West Oahu. And some people might say, that's not going to help us out here. And that will help us out here. Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center has a great program that teaches many doctors from 3rd grade. And where are they going to go to? They want to go to college. UH West Oahu is a 4-year college. This is a great asset to work with outside sources to build a health building, to be able to teach health. Second to agriculture, we need doctors, we need registered nurses, we need professionals in our health industries. Then we got $2 million for the design and the construction for Leeward Community College, for a Native Hawaiian Learning Center. They've been trying to get their building built on LCC campus probably for like 15, 20 years. So this is a start to getting their building because they've been housed in other buildings at LCC. Many of our students will go to UH West Oahu or LCC before they jump to UH Manoa. That helps keeps them off the road so they don't plug up traffic going into Honolulu. They have the option to get a 4-year college at UH West. They got options to get a 2-year college degree at Leeward. These are some of the smaller CIP appropriations that have been given to each one of our schools. Our Triple T, that's Race for the Top. We got those because we are an innovation zone under Race for the Top. So we got more than any other district outside of the 2nd innovation zone, which is up on the Big Island in Puna and Ka'u. So, Kamaili Elementary, miscellaneous repairs and maintenance, $39,000. New fire hydrant, which was not Race for the Top. That's safety and health. Replace fire alarms, PAs. Each one of these, Lehoku, Makaha, Waianae L, Waianae High, Waianae Inter, everybody got money. $2.2 million worth. This is outside of what you just heard that came out of our budget from this last session. In the last 2 sessions, CIP monies, Kamaili, got $800,000 to upgrade their electrical. If you've been to any of our schools, and correct me if I'm wrong, Waianae High School is about 51 years old. Waianae Elementary is probably 60, 70? Older than 60 or 70. So if you think about electrical back then versus what we have today, and you say, 800 grand, yes, yes. This is to bring technology into our schools, to be able to have laptops, to be able just to plug in lights, to put in fans, to put in AC as everybody calls for. Whoop. And then we got $3 million for LCC Waianae. LCC Waianae has grown in their student ratio, and they're outgrowing their facility. So they got $3 million to help acquire a new facility. That's where that money came from. These are additional constructions monies ranging from 2011. All of our schools out here got something, every single school. Through 2012, through 2013. That is re-roofing buildings, that is fixing bathrooms, that is electrical upgrades, renovations. So when people say we're not getting anything, we definitely are. Our voices have finally been heard with the DOE, with the legislature. What did we pass on the legislative side? That's all good, Joe. You got to get all those steps to get that money to the school. One thing that was passed was a school readiness program. Many people don't understand what the school readiness program is. The DOE system has focused that we need to prepare our children for kindergarten and first grade because they're just not ready yet. So the school readiness preparedness program is a program that will help get our kids into preschool to be ready for kindergarten. We came in setting up this system. The governor asked for $23 million for this program. You see, there's 5,000 children that are being prepared for kindergarten. That's how many 4-year-olds you have. And the private sector takes care of 1,500 of them. And they look towards us to take care of the other 3,500. And that's what $23 million was. The legislature said, no, Governor, we're not going to give you $23 million. Show us first. So we said we're going to give you $6.7 million. That's only going to take care of 900 children. So that's going to take care of the most neediest children first. Then we have to show the governor, the legislature, and the DOE that we can make a change and give them more money in following years. We have to think differently going forward. You know, this is not a one-year thing. If we want to really create change for those 1, 2, 3, and 5-year-olds right now, then we all have to pull our belt tight. It's going to be $30 to $100 million a year to do this program. And everybody's going to say it's a lot of money. But it's going to be well worth it when that child is ready to go to college, that child doesn't fall down and end up in our prison system or on our social service programs. So we spend the money today to save later. That's bottom line what the school readiness program is. And people will say, I don't want you using my tax dollars to pay for early education. Well, I'm sorry, we already do. Through the Human Service Department, we already pay for a program called Open Doors to have families to go back to work or to go back to school, and we watch your little children in preschool. We've been doing it for years. This is the hybrid program of that. So we asked the governor, instead of you setting up a new department for this, you're going to run it out of our Human Services Department to save money. I can talk all night about that, but it's very important. We heard it loud and clear with our school transportation issues. And I'll let the experts talk on that. But this was the legislature telling them, meaning the DOE and the BOE, you need to tighten that up a little bit. So we passed a law to ask them to tighten it up a little bit and to look at their contracting procedures. And they have already done that, and they might talk about that a little bit, which has already been in place. Then I have my little HCR. This is a Hawaii concurrent resolution. And since I was very concerned with how much this was going to cost us, I said, let's really think out of the box. Let's go start looking at philanthropists and large donors to drop money into these type of programs to create that systemic change going down. And I asked our State Department to say, you need to look at the use of those philanthropy dollars today to save future dollars. That means they loan us money, and if we produce certain mandates, we don't pay it back. So that's something they'll be studying. We'll probably give you next year some updates on that because they're coming out with a report. And boy, were they kicking and screaming. They were like, no, we don't want to do this right now. All we're doing was asking for, can it be done? Really, they do it in Massachusetts. They've been doing it for quite a while. This is using private philanthropy money to pay for public programs. See? Is that it? I think so. Is that it? My clicker's not working. That's not healthy. Oh, maybe that was it. Okay, that means I'm done. I went over time. I was already getting the flags in the back. So, anyway, let me introduce my special guest. First and foremost, I want to thank him for being here. Don Horner happens to be the chair of the Board of Education, and I'm very honored to have him come out and join us this evening. He'll talk a little bit about the Board of Education and what their role is, and a little bit about the department. And then we're going to be turning it over to my complex area superintendent. Everybody knows that as a CAS, C-A-S. She'll talk about our complex. We belong in the Nanakuli Waianae complex. We are a little bit different than all the other complexes, and that derived from you, the constituents out here, saying, you know what, we was always stuck in Pro City complex, and we was way far away from those guys, and we have different issues than them. Well, they changed our complex for us, and we're all in one complex. So everything from Kahi Point out to Kaena Point is in one complex. So Ann Mahi is here with us this evening, and she'll talk about that a little bit, as well as John Wataoka, who I said earlier as the principal of Waianae Elementary, has now gone into the administration with the DOE. So he'll be joining her with that. So with that, I'll bring up Mr. Horner.
Aloha. I was taught by my mother to do more listening than talking, so I'm really here to basically try to answer your questions when we get to the Q&A and allow the experts and Mahi to do most of the talk about education. But I just want to give you kind of, as Joe said, by the way, you're well represented by this representative. She's outstanding. It's a privilege to work with her in this legislative session, and she gets it. She gets it. The Board of Education, as you know, the new board was appointed about almost 2.5 years ago. We have an elected board for 24. So I believe we've been hard at work. That's some of the things that she's outlined. Your board, my style is I had the privilege of being running First Hawaiian Bank for the last 32 years, or been working for the bank, and retired and took on this new responsibility. And it's been quite a privilege to work for 180,000 children. And every day we look at it centrically that our first job is kids. And candidly, the first thing I ask for is, let me see your plans. And frankly, the plans that we had in place weren't kid-centric. And it took us about a year to understand what's going on, frankly, because we did a lot more listening than talking. And we put together a strategic plan, which is, of course, online. And I'm not going to go through these 29 pages of the plan, but give an example. Before, the Board of Education had a plan and the Department of Education had a plan. Those two plans weren't talking to each other. Today, we have one plan. We're on the same team, so to speak. But this plan really is a three-step process. It's really three legs of a stool. The first leg is what's called student achievement. It's really about a focus on how do we get our kids to grow academically. And I can get into all that when we get to the Q&A. But part of that was reorganization of how we do business. And one of the major significant parts of that was giving the responsibility and the authority back to the communities. And we did that primarily through the complex area of superintendents. We had 15 of those, and I'm just going to be quite blunt about this. We have 8 new ones in the last 2 years. Ann was the first to be hired, and I think, off the record, the best. I mean that sincerely. I really, really, really do. She's had significant improvements on the Leeward Coast. Not because anything's done at the head office. It's been community. It's really been the folks here in the communities made the changes. We just got out of the way. So our job primarily was to put the best we had out back in the field and back them up. Before the CAS used to have a huge amount of responsibility, but they didn't have authority. Now they got responsibility and authority. And so the first was talking about kids. The second piece of that was staff development. We really need to invest in our people. And that involved lots of things. We talked about this teacher contract. It's a very expensive contract. Frankly, the teachers are worth every dime of it. And I mean that sincerely. Our employees are not our problem. Our employees are a solution. Our problem is leadership, frankly. We got great teachers. And they agreed to basically they don't get a dime of that money unless they perform. That teacher contract is based on performance. I'm so proud of our teachers. Now that kicks in over the next 3 years, but there's no contract like that in the United States of America. That's the kind of teachers you got working with in the state. And that took some gumption. Frankly, I'm dealing with the principals now on the same issue, but that's another discussion. But that's just one of the issues in talking about staff. But along with that came accountability to management to basically put the infrastructure in place to help them be successful in the classroom. And that's what that second leg of the stool is all about staff development. Third piece is support systems. You cannot ask people to do something if you don't give them the infrastructure. You cannot go to school and have a building that really across the street, I think that school is 150 years old. That was the first school that's ever been built on the Waianae coast. Is that right? I wasn't quite here then, but I'm pretty close. Our average building in the Department of Education is 65 years old. We got a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. And we've started, thanks to the leadership of people like Joe. So and it's not just building, it's computer systems, we're working really hard, but sometimes we don't work smart. So it's basically making the right decision with the resources that we have. And we don't have a money problem, we have a basic prioritization problem. And so anyway, that second leg of the stool in this plan, which is online, it's for everyone to take a look at and take shots at, but we're moving on this plan, frankly. And part of this also was, we had to do this because we did one other thing. When I went around the schools, and I've been everywhere from Nihao to Molokai, I've been to lots of schools just listening. What I kept at, when everybody's pal, I asked them one question. Tell me, I'm a business person, I'm not an educator. What does success look like? And honestly, at that point, the definition was a federal definition. It was all about, quote, AYP. Really, no child left behind. Everything was about 3 tests. And the whole school system was focused on 3 darn tests. And a lot of veteran teachers, as I see in the back, of 40-year veterans, they're a little sick of that. Because that's a lot more than that. The child's a lot bigger than one test. So we went to the federal government with the support of this plan and asked them to change that. When it says waiver, that's not right. It's really AYP plus. Our bar actually got raised. It's a lot more comprehensive. Today, it's about student achievement. It's about graduation rates, attendance, things that good principals were focused on, good teachers focused, but we weren't focused on at the head office. We didn't care about attendance. We didn't care about, it was all about a test. So the things we're looking at now are much different from what we were looking at before. Tests are still important. We've got to hold people accountable. And so today, our plan is our success. So the feds are holding us accountable to achieve the plan. And Mahi's job is to execute this plan. That's her job. And my job is to give her support to help her do that, to be successful. So saying that, I'm happy to answer Q&A, but respectfully I'd ask Ann to come up and kind of give you some background and maybe a principal or two to talk story. And then if Joe's okay, we'll open it up for questions. Is that okay, Joe? Ann Mahi, your Compact Service Superintendent.
Thank you so much, everyone. I have to say, it really is an honor and a privilege to be here. I started teaching at Waianae High School in 1977. How many of you were there? Oh, see, there are a few. And then I see Calvin comes up to me, and he teaches at Kailihiwa, and he told me, you remember me? I was your student at Waianae High School. I used to clean your classroom. He's all grown up. I mean, he has kids and everything, right? So I've been around for a long time, and I've enjoyed every opportunity to work with community, with parents, with teachers, especially with the children. And I have to tell you, thank you so much for those kind words, Chair Horner. I have to say, it is really about the team of administrators that we have, school principals, vice principals, the teachers, you know, our complex area staff that puts in a lot of time and planning in terms of the kinds of achievement you're going to see over the past several years. The race started years ago, beyond me, and we've had very dedicated administrators who started it with just a hope and a thought that if we're gonna look at the children and say these are the things that we need to have built for their future, we have to start with something, and they did. And I think as things progressed, they made changes, you know, as we all do, yeah, we make changes, and things got better and better, and this past year, we're celebrating the successes of their work, and through the Strive High, we were able to have, out of our 9 schools, 7 of the schools are in continuous improvement. Yay, that's wonderful. We have 1 school that's in focus, and they're in focus because it's not a bad thing, okay? In focus means there's one part of the plan we gotta focus on, okay? And so for our elementary schools, they're looking at chronic absenteeism. That was a real big issue. And it wasn't kindergarten, it was from grades 1 to grade 6. And so now the school can rally around looking at the data and bringing in the community and the parents and saying, what can we do? Talking to the students about how come they don't come to school. What can we do, okay? How do we create more engaging classrooms? These are the things that are important, you know, as we talk about how do we make improvements in our data. The other thing was really taking a look at our graduation rates, looking at our college enrollment rates. And I have to tell you, when the principals start to look at it, our high schools are doing extremely well. We've moved from the 60% graduation rate, I think, and Principal Shigeta is nodding his head because he's in the 70s now. Yay, he's in 73%? 73%. And that was because there's hard work being put together at the school where they're offering credit recovery. They're giving students opportunity to take classes beyond the school day to get their credits. They're on a 4x4 block, meaning students can get 8 credits in the year as opposed to the 6 or 7 at other high schools. There's work, and it's very focused and targeted. I have to say, you know, it's been an honor just to come here this past school year and be able to work with outstanding administrators on our team. When I go to the schools and when we go to visit, the children are wonderful. I have to say, you have wonderful children. They're loving, friendly, caring. They want to learn. They're excited. We have so much work to do to make sure that all of their dreams come true. And that's what this journey is all about for us. I want to be able to introduce John Wataoka. John Wataoka was the principal at Waianae Elementary School, and he stepped out to help us to be the Race to the Top project manager for Nanakuli Waianae. So I want to really thank him because he stepped in and has done wonderful work. He's been at a lot of meetings. He's been the voice of the principal. He's done really outstanding work to keep us all together this past year. So John's going to also now carry on with our presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And what a coincidence, you know, Mahi started in 1977 at Waianae High School. That's when I was born. Not just joking, just joking. I was actually born before that. So anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name is John Wataoka. I am the Race to the Top project manager for Nanakuli and Waianae. And I've actually been on the coast now for 12 years. So this is my 12th year on the coast, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be out here. It's been my privilege and honor to be able to serve the students and the community within Waianae. Along with myself, these are just some of the different people within our complex who are here to serve your children. Of course, we have Mahi, myself, Nelson Shigeta, who's the principal at Waianae High School. Okay, she's gonna make them stand. We also have at taking over for Waianae Elementary School, we have Principal Wendy Takahashi, who's also here this evening. Principal of Makaha Elementary School, we have Diana Gore. Principal of Lehoku Elementary, we have Mr. Randy Miura. And then, of course, the diva of our complex, principal at Mahi Elementary School, Ms. Disa Hagi. So, I wanted to start this presentation with actually a video. This video is actually done by Sea Rider Productions, and whenever I watch this video, and believe me, I've watched it faculty meetings, I watch it at home, I showed it to my wife, I showed it to my mom, I showed it to my dad. But I think it really captures the essence of our community and what makes our community so very special. So if we could run.
Waianae residents are a proud community of determined people. We respect and honor the accomplishments of those who came before us and built this coastal town we call home. Our passion and determination can change the stereotypical images some may have of Waianae's people. We are humble, but proud and determined to succeed at anything we take on. We believe actions speak louder than words, and we find strength in the diversity of our cultural makeup. Waianae is a small community of people with strong ties to each other and memories shared across generations. Waianae is where we feel most secure and most at peace. We are blessed by the breathtaking sunsets and sun-drenched beaches. But most of all, we are blessed with a sense of community and the strong belief that Waianae can be even better than anyone ever imagined.
I am a productive member of my community.
I fight for my home. I'm able to achieve my dreams.
We are strong-willed.
I can change the rules. Football is pride.
I have the support of my community.
Doubts push me to work harder.
We act, we feel, we think.
So this video was actually put together by Sea Rider Productions, and I think that Sea Rider Productions, I mean, if you're from the community, you know that it's actually not just one of the top programs in the state, it's actually one of the top programs in the country. And in fact, this summer, they went to a national competition, and this was, I believe, the second or perhaps even the third time they actually won as far as the best media production within the country. So this is our school system, our students, our teachers, really producing excellence. So this is what we're capable of doing when we work together. So now in our journey, and we really started Race to the Top, actually even before Race to the Top, the thought of Race to the Top began. And we started getting together collectively as a complex area group of principals and we really started to say, okay, let's think about what we need to do, what we need to do as far as improve our schools. We've never, I think as a collective group of leaders, we were never satisfied with where we are. We're always thinking ahead of where we want to be. So some of the things that we did was we said we needed to improve on our graduation rates, but not just our graduation rates, really looking at students who are going to be career, college, and community ready. So that's what we're looking at. And of course, that perfectly lined up with the state's mission and vision about getting all of our students to be career and college ready. We concentrated on a few things when we first started. We know that recruiting teachers has been a challenge within our school system. So we wanted to make sure that we recruited highly qualified teachers and also supporting them in becoming highly effective. We worked with teachers on collaboration, and we implemented a process called data teams. We've actually been working on professional learning communities for a while, but we then jumped into data teams, and this was just one way of improving the practices that actually go on when teachers actually are able to collaborate, see one another, and work on their practices. We instituted Instructional Coaches Academy. Throughout the entire complex, we've always had academic coaches to support our teachers. And so one of the things that we did was, you know what, let's get our coaches together and really start to get unified in how we're supporting our teachers, because we have a lot of great things that are going on within each individual school. So let's collectively pull us together and become that much stronger. And then, of course, we're working on integrating much more digital technology to all of our schools. Building community partnerships, this has been something that's been ongoing, and that's another area that we want to continue to grow as we move forward. And of course, we're working on our communication system within the, basically from the school to home. Because sometimes, you know, when certain parents and certain family members, certain communities, they get upset with what's going on in the school. And a lot of it is, perhaps they're not really upset, is more the fact that they're really not aware. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that we're communicating, but communication goes both ways. So as schools and the DOE communicates to the families and to the communities, and we're sharing our message, we also need to listen to the message that's coming back within the department. So in 2008, you can kind of see the numbers at the very top. As far as the number of highly qualified teachers, 61% of our teachers within Waianae were highly qualified. And as you can see, we really work diligently and hard. And one of the things that the principal group had done is that the state actually they have a very, very small recruitment office. So every single principal within our complex was trained to actually become a state recruiter. So we would actually trained ourselves, we volunteered our time to become state recruiters, became trained, and then we actually went out and started recruiting teachers ourselves so that we can bring in highly qualified teachers. And as you can see, that particular strategy really worked. 2009, we jumped up, 10, 11, we kind of flatlined, went up in 12, and then you can see last year, 91% of our teachers were then highly qualified. So that's something that we worked really hard towards, and then you can see the results that we were recruiting highly qualified teachers. Now, as far as like really getting teachers to work together and learn with each other and from one another, we worked also with data teams. So we hired a specialist, and her name is Deanne Nagato, and she works primarily with making sure that data teams is implemented at every school. And basically it's just a process where teachers are going to be looking at how students are doing and also examining how their practices are impacting student learning. And so we're actually going to be expanding the expertise. So we're bringing in more training so that more people actually are going to be trained on how to actually implement these practices within all of our schools and within all of our classrooms. And then going down the second bullet, all teachers in our complex participate in a data team. So last year when we looked at it, although we have some work to do, every teacher is a part of a data team. Every teacher has an opportunity to participate in that. That means they have colleagues that they can bounce ideas off of. We also have academic coaches that come in and support all of the teachers. So that's what's going on in all of our schools. So this is what, and it's a little dark here, but this is what one of the teachers had said about the whole process, is that as a community of learners, we're able to build our knowledge and understanding of various topics. And this is a teacher from Waianae Elementary School. Instructional Coaches Academy, this is something that we've been working on, and we're still making adjustments and working on this. And we're really working with our teacher leaders as far as implementing the most powerful instructional strategies that are going on. And so we want to support our teachers. So we bring in different, either different professional development, or sometimes they actually work with one another and share an exchange of ideas through a professional learning community. And the coaches are also providing mentoring and support for all teachers at the schools throughout the year. So they provide professional development, but sometimes you got a new teacher, fresh out of college, you get a little emotional, especially if they're, not from the islands, start crying and stuff. So sometimes our coaches are beyond just the academic support. They actually provide the emotional support as well. And we also have some support. We could definitely use more from the complex level as far as some of the support to the teachers, because this particular year we have 80 first-year teachers. So we need to continue to work on our system as far as how we're supporting our new teachers, but also all of the teachers throughout. So we have a structure in place, and we're continuing to work it and refine it, and working on getting better at it. So from the one year to the next, and actually this is 2012 to 2013, you can't really see because it's a little dark at the bottom. Our reading scores actually took a slight dip, but then you can notice that our math scores actually also took a slight increase. So in a way, we kind of flatlined from 2012 to 2013 overall as a complex, but actually historically, if you go back, there was a time that we were actually in the single digits. So if you really go back into the history of it, and you look back maybe about a good 9 years, there were many, many schools that were actually in the single digits. So the fact that we're in the 50s and in the 40s for math, we have made progress. And one of the things that we're noticing, and Mahi had mentioned it before, if you look at the graduation rate, in 2009, our high school graduation rate at Waianae High School was 65%. 2013 was 75%. So that's actually when I actually look back at the history of it, this is actually the highest our graduation rate has been. So our work and our effort has been paying off, and not only as far as just the number of students that are graduating, I've also taken a look at the number of students that are going off to college. Just the numbers of students that are heading off to 2 or 4 year colleges has also increased as well. So, we have a lot of work to do, but we're also very proud of the accomplishments and the progress that we are making. So, some of the things that we're working on doing, and this is just really moving forward, and we actually have a grant that just was submitted to the Superintendent's office. We just found out this week that it was approved, so we're going to be rolling this out. We are going to be getting some funding for digital devices within our classrooms. And right now, the complex area, we're working on a plan on how this is going to roll out. And we're looking at iPads and mini iPads. And when it says one-to-one, the idea is that every student has it in their hands when they're at school, so that you could use it in class. And of course, this is going to involve professional development for our teachers, also training for our students as far as how to use these devices. And the idea is we're really working on engaging our students and helping them to become very familiar with all of this technology. And we know that technology does help engage our students, but at the same time, it really is the expertise and the skill of the teacher that makes this come alive. So along with just getting the devices, we are working on the professional development piece. And I think that's the third bullet right there, which is the most critical. And in really teaching teachers how to use this technology to get our students excited about what's going on in class and what they're learning. And I had an opportunity to actually visit one particular classroom that has this going on at Makaha Elementary School, and the level of engagement, the excitement of the students, very, very high. I mean, just, it was very, very impressive to see what was going on when students have a trained teacher who knows how to utilize technology to engage their students. And so we're working on the plan to roll it out, because we need to figure out how to manage all of these devices along with the professional development as well for all of our staff. So we're looking at second semester for this coming school year, or this school year. We're also working on a communication website, and so what basically it is going to be a Nanakuli Waianae website. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all of our families where they can actually go get the information, and there's actually going to be links to individual school websites so that all of that information is going to be out there. This is just going to be one of our communication tools that we're going to be rolling out. Hopefully, I mean, we'll definitely get it done by the end of the year, but we're looking to probably push it to by the semester mark. So we'll have this out, we'll advertise it, and then you'll know where, as a parent, as a community member, what's going on in all the schools, as well as whenever you just need information about the complex area as well. These are, and then I mentioned earlier, and I know I'm going through a whole bunch of information because there's so many things that we're really excited about. These are just some of the community partners that we're working with, and of course, you know, there's a lot of really great things going on within all of our schools, and these partners are not in all schools, but they are at least in one, if not several schools. So we have partners with UH West Oahu. Some of our partnerships involve the fact that we actually have partnerships with the university where student teachers come and really learn from some of our master teachers at our schools. We have partnerships with Ma'o Farms, and gotta tell you, our kids absolutely love going up to the farm. Sorry, I misspelled In Peace there. It actually should be all capitalized. We have partnerships with In Peace, which is primarily, they're working to really coordinate all of the different preschool programs along the coast so that we have a set, more of a set standard or set benchmarks where our preschool programs need to hit so that our students come into school kindergarten ready. Partnerships with Kamehameha schools. We work with Calvin, of course, right there with the neighborhood board. Partnerships also with UH Manoa. We've actually offered a Matt Summer Academy coming up. Rotary Club, Waianae, Comprehensive Center, Boys and Girls Club, and the Hui Kako, which is going to be kind of like our community representative group. So it's kind of a DOE and community group together. It kind of shapes how our partnerships work with one another. Now this is another little video, and then we've actually, we're very fortunate to begin a intermediate or middle school level athletic program. And this program is called After School All-Stars. I actually saw a commercial about this at about late last night. And it's actually something that's starting to take off throughout the country. But we're actually implemented here at Waianae, and they actually have several programs going on. And so our students at the intermediate school made a quick little video to explain how wonderful this program is. Okay, so, and I know I probably totally went over my 5 minutes. I don't know if I was allotted 5 minutes or not. But we actually did this video specifically for, we had to do it for the Board of Education several months back, and I actually went down to the intermediate school, and I asked the media teacher there, do you think you can assign a couple of students to put a video together about After School All-Stars, because I think it's just such an amazing program. And then, so she called in a couple students, and she said, oh, this is what Mr. Watoka wants, he wants a video. And then they said, oh, when do you need it by? Tomorrow would be good. And then, you know what, believe it or not, they actually put this together. So basically in a 24-hour turnaround, they're able to put this quality of work, and once again, these are our students, you know, that are able to put this together in such a short period of time. But I think they're also very proud of the work that they're capable of doing, but also the fact that they're very excited about this particular program. And this program is a partnership. It is not just it's not from the DOE, it's really a partnership from the community that's really supporting our students. Okay, oh wait, sorry, I didn't turn it on. So just just previously what I said is really some of the work that we've already been doing, and we're still working and tweaking and getting better and better at it. And this is just some of the things that we are gonna do looking ahead or moving into the future. We are working with a community school model, which is really developing how do we work together community DOE? Because historically, that's been a challenge. How do we do it? You know, so we're working this out. That's part of the Hui Kako. Let's figure this out together. So we're actually going to be starting with, we're actually starting out here at Waianae Intermediate School, and some of you may actually have gone out to their parent nights where they're really working with the families on how do we improve student attendance. And so we're working on that. We're also building student engagement and college readiness, and one of the things that we're going to be doing through this is actually the one-to-one devices, so we're working on that, and we're hoping to implement that as well effectively. We're also going to be expanding our learning outside the classroom through this technology. We're actually looking at how we can actually, where some of this support can actually go home, and that would be, and one of the things that we're going to be allowing our students to access is a Footsteps to Brilliance, which is actually a reading program for all of our students within the community, as long as they attend a school within Waianae or Nanakuli, can actually access this. Normally this is a program you would have to pay for, and this actually has some tutorials and some little activities where kids, it just supports their reading, but they'll be able to access it as long as they are part of our school system here. And of course, we're going to be working with the high school, and this is something that we're continuing to work on as far as actually having college classes on campus. We have a few AP classes, but we're actually working and looking to expand that. So that's some of the work that we're going into the future, and right now we've already boosted our graduation rate up to 75%. Through these college partnerships, we're actually working to improve our college graduation rate as well. So we're working in that as well. So this is just some of the work that we're doing, and we know that there's a lot more work that needs to be had. And of course, it is not just schools, but it really is the partnerships. And so I do want to thank all of you for coming out this evening. It really means a lot to show your support for all of our keiki out here. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Anne. I know that's a lot of information in a small little time span, but as you can see, we're not just focusing on one grade level, one particular child. This is a huge task. We're focusing on 3 years old all the way up to 23 years old. Each one of these programs will be implemented on this coastline. Now, I'd like to bring up our next presenters, which is Kamehameha Schools. I'd like to correct myself, because I think I told myself that they've been working on this coastline 2 to 3 years. I was sitting there going, you know what? I think it's been 4 or 5 years. So, reminder, everybody should have gotten their survey form. Please fill in your survey form, what you like, what you don't like, help us get a little bit better as we go forward. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns that you might not want to ask right now, feel free to put it on here. We will get back to you as long as you give us your contact information. As far as questions, we're going to handle them after Kapua with the Kamehameha Schools. Sorry, they were looking for the clicker. Does their presentation. So, if you have any questions, write them down, and then we will take them. So, with that, I will bring up the representatives from Kamehameha Schools. This would be Kalei. She takes care of the whole project out here, and her partner would be Mahi. Many of you will be familiar with Mahi. Kalei has probably been around for about 2 years in the forefront. So, give them all a warm welcome, and they'll be talking about the Kapua Initiative.
O aloha aiai kākou. Mai ka o maka no ka lama kumakahi ai ka velo na Kailihiwa. Mai ka ho'oku ia ka hala mai aloha nei kākou. Whether you have come here from as far east as the rising of the sun at Kumakahi, the easternmost point off the big island of Hawai'i, you come here from as far west as the setting of the sun at Lehua, a tiny island off the western coast of Ni'ihau from the horizon to the zenith. It is truly an honor to be here. Mahalo. I'm Kalei Kailihiwa. I should know I'm born and raised on Maui, Waianae. I'm a pig farmer's daughter, so I'm not kamaina to this place. But I have been here more years than I have been in Waianae, so in many ways I feel very connected to this place. I've been part of Kapua for about, it's actually only been a year. I was lurking for a year before then. And then finally they said, who's this girl? She keeps coming around, coming out of these meetings. So they made it official and they gave me a job. So very appreciative to Kamehameha. So when I took this job, probably the biggest question I always get asked is, Kalei, what is Kapua? And before, that used to be a really hard question to answer, but now I have a simple answer, and it's right up here. Kapua is Kamehameha schools on Waianae Coast. We figured it out. So I want to start with my beginning, and that's with our princess, Bernice Hawaii. And our mission at Kamehameha Schools is to improve the capability and well-being of Hawaiians through education. So for the past decade, we've been really studying what that means to us, learning about whether or not we've been doing it right, what can we learn from our 125-year history, and we took some notes, and it's from this. It's from her desire to bring up young and industrious, good men and women that were here with the Kapua Initiative. So in our research and our study about Hawaiians and our mission, we thought to ourselves, well, if we're going to be successful at fulfilling our mission, we should go and get the most Hawaiians. So we got out a heat map and we said, where's all the Hawaiians living these days? And no surprise, the highest concentration of Hawaiians anywhere in this universe is right here on the Waianae Coast. And so we said to ourselves, let's do a refresh of what we look like on the Waianae Coast. And so that's the Kapua Initiative. And so we started coming out here. You should know, we've actually been out here in some way, shape, or form, whether it was in a preschool or an outreach office for the past 5 decades. And so this refresh is very important to us because we wanted to make it clear that because there's the most Hawaiians anywhere in the universe, that this is where we want to be, this is where we belong. In 2009, we launched the Kapua Initiative. We started talking with lots of you. I see so many familiar faces. It's so wonderful to be here. Have many of those conversations in this very room. And together with the Waianae community, we came up with this vision. And our vision for the Waianae Coast is this, that all children on the Waianae Coast will be connected to place, supported in learning, and succeeding as tomorrow's local and global leaders. So I'm going to unpack that for you a little bit. When I say all children, I mean all children. I mean every single child, regardless of age, regardless of ability, and in some cases, yes, regardless of ethnicity, because we're working with entire schools, we're working with entire communities. If we're going to uplift the capability and well-being of Hawaiians through education, we realize that that's going to be an important part of our solution. And so when I say Waianae Coast, I mean the place on this earth between Kahe Point and Ka'ena Point. My coworker, I think she's still here, Paula Ann. You guys know Paula Ann? Every morning I have to go out to her and I have to make sure she puts her can of red paint away, because if Paula had her way, she would paint a red line right at Kahe Point and say, this is Waianae and the rest of you are townies. Guess which car is hers in the parking lot? You go try and watch after. But guess which car is hers? So that's what we mean when you say Waianae Coast. When I say connected to place, I mean this. Make no mistake, we're Kamehameha schools. We're about academic achievement. Yes, we want to double, triple, quadruple the number of kids who go and graduate from college. But check this out. If kids who go and graduate from college don't know who they are and where they come from, then we have not done our jobs. We know and understand that foundational to being Hawaiian, foundational to being part of this coast, is an intimate understanding of who you are and where you come from. And so you'll see us working on some strategies in that area. Supported in learning, that part of our vision, so I'm a mom of 2 babies, right? When I say babies, I really mean babies, right? My oldest is 4.5 years old. My youngest is 4 months old. And so my 4.5-year-old, he started kindergarten this year, and so I take him by the hand every day and we walk through his class. And when I walk him to his class and I hand him over to his teacher, I'm not only handing over to her his brain, I'm handing over to her his hands, his feet, his tummy, his heart, and I'm entrusting that teacher with all of him. And so we know that for young people to be successful in school, if tummies are empty and hearts are broken, learning is sometimes next to impossible. And so key to our mission and what we hope to accomplish, we have to address tummies and hearts. Here's the thing, tummies and hearts, that's not our core competency, right? We're a school system. And so you'll see us working in tandem with, working in partnership with, working in collaboration with others whose job it is to fill tummies and mend hearts. That's going to be an important part of our work. And then last but not least, succeeding as tomorrow's local and global leaders. So when we were crafting this mission, right, I wanted to get creative and I made up a word, it's global. And then my communications department came back and said, no, Kalei, you have to use real words in our mission statement. So we ended up with local and global leaders, but really what that was about is, you know, local issues here on the Waianae Coast. We're talking sustainability, that's all in vogue and popular now, but here on the Waianae Coast, that's so old news. We've been doing it forever. So we know that what's local will have global implications. And then the inverse of that is also true. That's what's happening on a global scale will have local implications, and that's the frame of reference and the worldview that our young people will have to have if they'll be successful as tomorrow's leaders. So that's our vision. That's what we're aiming to do. And so, wow, noble endeavor, right? How are we going to do that? So we came up with 3 simple strategies. The first one is needle-moving collaborations. I'll talk a little bit about what that means. The second strategy is community school partnerships. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means a little bit later. And our third strategy is community learning centers. And so our first strategy, needle-moving collaborations. You know, I'm just a sucker for Hawaiian faces and places, so I have lots of pictures to share. And so our first strategy is about needle-moving collaborations, making a difference for kids. You know, we're not interested in going to meetings for 2 years. We want to go to meetings if things are going to be different for kids. And so we want to engage in partnerships if things are going to be different for kids. We know that we can't do it ourselves. And so we don't intend on rolling out very many brand new programs. We know that there are some amazing assets and resources here on the Waianae Coast already, evident from John's presentation and from what Ann said, some wonderful, wonderful things from what Representative Jordan said. So why reinvent the wheel? Instead, let's leverage our resources and stand shoulder to shoulder with others who are doing this good work. Here's a little video of one of those partnership efforts. Well, that's okay, never mind. It was an awesome video. You know, it was a video, I'll tell you all about it. I'm a storyteller, right? And so the video, it was about this wonderful program at Nanakuli High and Intermediate School. It's a program called Nanai'imua. And Nanai'imua is what John was talking about. It's dual enrollment. It's college in high school. And so the babies who go to Nanakuli High School, they could take Astronomy 107 last year, and they did. And you know, every single young person who took that astronomy, that college level class, so the college professor came to school to teach a college level course, and they got dual credit for that class. And then Kamehameha's part in that was to take those young people on Huaka'i to bring astronomy alive. There's one greatest asset that the Waianae Coast community has, it's starry nights. My friend Mahi taught me that. And so that's what that little video was. It's on OEB TV if you want to go check it out. That's some really good stuff. Our second strategy is schools, our centers of communities. Amazing things going on in the DOE. Amazing growth, amazing learning. And so John talked a lot about the Hui Kako'o and community schools. We'll be traveling to Nashville in September to learn more and more about how to deepen community school partnerships to actually make a difference for kids. And then our final strategy, and my colleague Maile Koba will tell you a little bit more about that, but community learning centers and what our plans are for those centers here on the Waianae Coast.
So when we look at, my name is Mahi. And I was standing there rolling my eyes because I always got to follow Kalei. And then you guys are going to be really bored, but this time Kalei will end after, so now I'm sandwiched between her. But my name is Maile. I am a Maili girl. I grew up here. I still live on the same property. My parents were the first graduating class of Waianae High School, so we have long roots here. My uncle and my auntie are sitting in the back row there. And I'm glad to be here. And what makes this project special for me is this is my hometown, and I get to be part of it. And part of talking to community and making sure that what we do for this community is the right thing for this community, because this is where I grew up, this is where my kids are growing up, and hopefully this is where my grandchildren will grow up. So when we went out and talked to community, which we did a lot of, we did all kinds of talking, and people say, when you going to stop talking and doing stuff? But we really needed to understand and know what was important to people. And what we came out with was that there are some goals that we think are really, really important. And what we found that was in some of our past collaborations, We didn't focus as much as maybe we could have on some of the educational outcomes, and acknowledging that we are an educational entity, then we wanted to make sure that the collaborations that we are part of, that we are really working towards making that difference for kids. And so what are we going to measure? When we are in collaboration, we're going to measure, are we increasing kindergarten readiness? We want to see third grade reading proficiency increase, and we want to be part of that. We're looking at helping to increase 8th grade math proficiency. We want to help to increase the high school graduation rates and make sure that kids are going to school and that school attendance gets better, because we can't teach them if they're not in school. And in the end, we would like to see more of our kids going to college, because what we did learn was that our kids are awesome and they are really, really capable. And sometimes people don't believe that because they don't have the opportunities often to do those things. And so we want to see our kids succeed and be able to go to college. And so one of the things that we did was we looked at research. And so one point of research is that we know that research shows that children who attend high quality preschool programs do better when they're in primary school and secondary school. So we thought, okay, we know kindergarten, and this is something that we can help with. And so what we also found out is 43% of the students that are entering kindergarten in the Nanakuli Waianae complex, only 43% actually went to preschool, and only about half of those kindergartners are actually kindergarten ready. And I want to say that that's not because of a lack of interest, and it's not because of a lack of will, but what it was we also found that it was because of a lack of seats. That on the coast, there are X number of preschool seats, and at any given time, 97% of those seats are filled. And we know that different programs have different hours, different structures that fit differently for parents. So just because we have 3% of those seats empty, that doesn't mean that any parent can put their child in that it's going to fit for them. So one of the things that we thought we should start with in order to help the schools and the keiki and the families of this coast is we are going to start with the early childhood education. And so I am the project manager, so lucky to be the project manager of the Kamehameha Learning Center that we're planning to build in Mahi. And that is on a 40-acre piece of property that we have leased from the HHL, and are in the process of talking about a land swap so that we know it's ours forever, and in turn the community's forever. And so the thing that we're going to start with for phase 1 is an early childhood education complex. And that complex is slated to be open next summer. So you'll see if you go there now that no more any tractors, no more nothing going on. So targeted opening date next summer. We are really scrambling and working really hard to try and make this happen. But what's going to be there is 12 preschool classrooms, because increasing seat capacity was a very important thing. If we want to see the number go up from 43% of our kids going to preschool and being kindergarten ready, we needed to increase capacity of preschool seats because there was no capacity. So we're going to build 12 preschool classrooms. We're also going to build 4 infant toddler classrooms so that children from 0 to 2.5 actually also have a program that they can go to, and parents have that option if they need to put their children in a program in order to go back to work or to go back to school. And then the third building that we'll be having built in that complex is a resource center in ECE Kauhale. So let me talk a little bit about the 12 preschool classrooms. Kamehameha will only be operating 2 of those classrooms. And those 2 classrooms are right now actually in existence because we don't have a classroom site now for 2 classrooms. We have them stuffed in a multi-purpose room. So those won't be necessarily new seats. But the other 10 classrooms, what we figured was that it made more sense for us to work alongside community collaborators. So not to do it all ourselves, and not to think that we can provide it the best, but to do it in collaboration with other providers on the coast. So HCAP Head Start has committed to 2 classrooms. Waianae Coast Early Children's Services has committed to 4 classrooms. You might know them from Makaha. Punana Leo o Waianae has committed to 2 classrooms. And NP's Keiki Steps has committed to 1. So far that's only 11. We're in conversation with a few other providers, but what we did was we looked at providers from the coast. Because the goal now of the preschool complex is if we work alongside each other, then we help to increase everybody's practice. And what we've asked these providers to do is we invite you to come, but one of the things we want you to not do is you cannot close down operations where you have them now. So these are expanded seats. So imagine now if we say, come. And you know what, by the way, we're all gonna work towards national accreditation. We're all gonna agree to participate in an active professional learning community, and you have to come to monthly meetings in order to make sure that we're helping each other's strategy. And we're all gonna act as peer mentors to one another and share practices across the board. Hopefully, the hope is that as we all work together and raise the bar for each other's programs so that programs that are struggling can now really thrive, that practice will then trickle out into their other programs along the coast. And that no matter where a keiki decides to go or a family decides to send their keiki in preschool, that they will go to a quality preschool on this coast. And so that's our plan. And we're sticking with it, and we're hoping that it really does have some good results from that, because really it's about building this community. We're never going to be the only ones here. And so we want to make sure that all the people here benefit from the expertise of each other. And so the providers are really excited about working together. They meet now, even though the building hasn't started going up, they meet now monthly to start talking about practice and how they're going to work together and do those things. So it's very promising. The Early Childhood Resource Kauhale, what we're hoping to do is we've established a building that is actually going to be home to many of the early childhood education service providers along the coast. So we've approached a lot of providers and asked them if they would like to house in one place. So now a family who is having a child knows exactly where to go for services. And if those services are not there, then they can be pointed to somewhere in order to get those services. So early screening and intervention for children, we're gonna have agencies that focus on professional development for early childhood educators. There are some services that do parent workshops, and parents can come and get workshops for behavioral, so for their children, so that they can help with the development of their child. And again, like the preschool complex, it's about navigating services for families, and it's about helping to network and making sure that we all work together. Thank you.
So I used to work with the Hawaiian focused charter schools. There's 17 in our state, 17 in our state, 32 charter schools are Hawaiian focused. And they used to tell me, Kalei, you know what Hawaiian time means? Doesn't mean late, it means get time for everything. So, but you guys, I have like 50 more slides, but I'm not gonna show you them because it's late already, and I want to make sure we get time for questions and answers. I just want to mahalo you for your time and energy for making it a point to be here on a work night with some of your keiki to talk about education. This is where it starts. I want to mahalo Representative Jordan just for your earlier comments about early learning. I'm a mommy of little ones, and little ones is where it's at. And Cheryl Horner, I mean, just your opening comments, putting keiki first, always putting keiki first is that very first stool, that leg in that stool. And Mahi, just, you know, I love you so much. You're the first and you're the best. You said it. So, and then John, hello. Oh my goodness, a dream that you can believe in. I mean, I don't even have to dream it. It's a reality. It's here today. Waianae is a place that is amazing and full of wonderful resources and assets. So again, mahalo.
Thank you, Kalei. See, I need to take lessons from that. Get better, reform. I do have Colin here with PALS program, so I'm going to let them do their little bit while I get my speakers ready for their Q&As. It's probably only going to be about 5 minutes. He's going to talk about his program. Ready to go?
Eola, ela, eola ku aina pa e. Eola, ela, eola ku aina pa e. Eola, ela, eola ku aina pa e.
Recognize life. Recognize the path. Recognize life and stand firmly as one upon the knowledge found in the land. These guys are from Nanakuli High School, and they're here to advocate for their education. I think it's good to remember that the most important voice in this room is the students. Education belongs to them. So we are here to advocate for place-based learning, project-based learning, Aina-based learning, returning to the culture. And these guys got to work on some really exciting projects. Might be a little nervous to share. I don't know if anybody's interested in sharing. Anybody? Okay, not tonight. But they're here, and remember that it's the student voice that counts. So if you guys have any questions for them, like why they don't come for school but they'll come to a town meeting, they're here to answer those questions. So mahalo.
Let's just have them introduce themselves. What grade they're in.
Hi, my name is Dalen. I'm a senior.
Hi, my name is Malo and I'm a senior.
My name is Minigame and I'm a junior.
Hi, my name is Kione and I'm a senior this year.
That's just a sample of the youngsters and some of the programs that we have in our community. I just want to let you folks know that when you were watching that first video that Mr. Wataoka put up there about Waianae and that sense of being and sense of place, many of you don't know, and I was like, how come I wasn't in that video? I am a proud graduate of Waianae High School, and when Ann Mahi came out here and she said, I used to teach at Waianae, and I didn't find out till tonight, and that's why I raised my hand. I was in Waianae High School at 1977. Holy cow. So, worlds collide. I was a student, yes, and I didn't know that until this evening. But that shows you the power of our educational component on our coastline. You know? Maili Elementary, she's from our community. She came back. She never left. You know, Maili with Kapua Initiative, she never left. We go away, we learn, we come back. Kukui with Ma'o from Nanakuli. She's on our coastline. Many, many people care deeply about this coastline. I'm a product of this community, a proud graduate of Waianae High School. So, we'll get into our Q&A right now, but I just wanted to let you know that young man named Jonah that was in that As program, the After School All-Stars, he was the representative for the state of Hawaii to represent All-Stars and the United States just 3 weeks ago. That's what we're producing on our coastline. That's what we're here for tonight. Just to remind everybody from infant to adulthood, And we do. We ask each and every one of our students to please come back, teach, or give back in our community. That's the biggest message that we're trying to send to everybody. So I will open it up for questions. Nobody gave me a little piece of paper for ask, so do we have any questions? The challenge is you'll have to come up to the microphone because it's wired for Olelo. We can't touch the microphone because they have their little microphone attached to it. So please come up. Aloha, Johnny May. Just talk. I think, no, you go over here. They have to record you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I want to now.
They have it wired, sorry. Is it on?
Hello? Testing. Testing. Testing.
Can you guys hear? Yep, they're nodding.
Okay, I don't want to face my back to the audience. Good evening, everyone. My name is Johnny May Perry. I'm the Waianae Coast Neighborhood Board Chair. So I represent all of you that live in the district. And I'm here tonight. I have prepared. I will not address every bullet point, but I have copies for the three main speakers. So the bottom line, I want to test three of you if any of the ideas that I have on paper will come to a reality. Okay, I'm 7-year generation Waianae, went to Waianae Elementary. Your administration building was my kindergarten class. Also walked to Waianae High School and intermediate. At that time, they didn't have intermediate school, so it was a combined. We lived in a one-bedroom household. My parents didn't graduate from high school, but the one thing I remember my dad said was very important to him is education. So I'm going to make an announcement. So next week, Tuesday, here is your board meeting at 7 p.m. Someone from the university will be here. So I hope I have the turnout. I don't serve meals, okay? You come and share your concerns. But what I will, now I'm going to take my neighborhood board hat off, and as a native Hawaiian or as a Hawaiian, I was very disappointed when Queen Liliuokalani School was closed. What is not practiced in our school is Hawaii Pono'i, Hawaii Aloha. Thanks to the Waianae School, we get the Race to the Top funds, okay? And we need to do a paradigm shift. I am very glad to hear that the school are working hard for our children. I went to the Waianae Intermediate School last week. What I have learned that at that school, the children don't seem to have someone that they can talk to, the nitty-gritty stuff. Okay, so as you know, our community are faced with many challenges which needs to be addressed in the school so that they get better outcome. Okay, you need to educate the whole. And what I will say lastly, well, let me just say one point is smaller class size. With a school that have so much challenges, how can you teach 20 to 30 students in one class to one teacher? That's impossible, okay? So if we need smaller class size, we need to separate the boys and the girls in the STEM courses, okay? Because it shows that you get better outcome rather than looking who's wearing what and a lot of distraction, okay? I like to be blunt too. And I want to have significant results. So that's for Mr. Horner, okay? And then for Ms. Mahi, same as the above, there's a long list. As far as Kapua project, I have mentioned many times before to then CEO Mailer about increasing the number of students from Waianae to go to the Kapalama campus. Apparently, nobody heard. They don't mix. They don't want us to mix with them. That's my point of view. Okay, what I also have attached is we need the support of the public library because what I found out is between 2:30 and 5:30, there's a very crucial time for our students at the intermediate. I have the calendar, hours for the public libraries that needs to be looked at so we can help the students in the middle school. It's right across the street. I like Pro City Library because they open on Sunday. I also have for you the fall course schedule of Leeward Community College in Waianae. And just focus on the remedial courses on English and math. Again, if you, next Tuesday, September 3rd, 7 p.m., right here, your board meeting. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you have any specific questions, but I do want to address one of the concerns about our library. We have a great Friends of the Library group for Waianae. They meet like every other month or every quarter. In fact, we just had a meeting maybe 2 weeks ago, and they requested us to bring out the director. He kicked it to his deputy, which was fine. So Stacy Cano came out and met with my Friends of the Waianae Library, and their biggest concern was, when are we going to get a permanent library at the Waianae Public Library? I'll let you know that starting the beginning of September, and it's probably not the 1st or 2nd, but probably about the 4th, we will have a permanent librarian at Waianae Library. The temporary librarian who is there now, Casey, he will be going back to his position at Kapolei. So that will give us some stability as we're going forward. She heard the concerns from the library group, and we will be moving forward with those. And they're a great group. They want to start doing these projects over there, and I think we all should give them the support at our public library. Thank you very much, Johnny May. Other questions? Yes. The Ruby.
I'm Auntie Ruby. Kukui is my niece. And I have a question, maybe two-part question, from our other cohort in the community for Hawaiian language in Nanakuli. But thanks to Don Horner having that strategic plan, which I'm sure she didn't know about. She's ill today, so not here. And anyway, her question, I forgot what I was going to say, but her question was, 50 years ago, the NCLB was targeted, our area was targeted, and recently Race to the Top was targeted for our area, the Zone of Innovation. But those two times, federal monies were asked. 2 times we were targeted for those funds. 2 times our schools never achieved except for 1. And will that strategic plan help in this new Strive High? I haven't heard of that explained in detail. I retired from Lehoku in 2011, so I'm not up to par with those questions. Can that be answered tonight or later? And her other second part of the question was, why is community not involved in Race to the Top decisions? And then someone wants to answer.
Aloha, thank you, Auntie. Make sure I understand. Let's take the second question first, which is, why is the community not involved in Race to the Top and Mahi?
That's not.
Oh, you're giving me the mic, okay. All right.
I know they were.
Yeah. Well, I guess I need to understand the question more regarding Race to the Top. Race to the Top activities and initiatives weren't specifically only about the zones. So the zone schools were the ones who were the schools that piloted many of the initiatives that dealt with improving the human resources. You know, like how do we improve instruction in the classrooms and those kinds of things. So I don't even think the schools had an input on what kinds of initiatives were going to happen at that time. It was just decisions that were made about through research, saying that this is what we're going to try here. That's why it's an innovation. And then our schools actually took on the challenge of implementing a lot of those initiatives. The observations, Charlotte Danielson observations of teachers that we use currently for evaluations, those were things that weren't choices necessarily. There were choices about which one we were going to pick, but the decision to have an evaluation of sorts was not, this is part of the RACE grant proposal. We also have the interim complex area superintendent who took on a lot of the challenges, Randy Mura. And I was just going to say, only because if there were decisions made, Randy, it was you, not me, but I just wanted to kind of suggest that. No, I mean, I don't know, at that time, were there opportunities for community input to some of those initiatives? Yeah, but sorry, I want to answer the question, and I think there may have been, but Randy would be better at sharing those community forums that may have been held. Yeah.
Okay, like John stated, before Race to the Top, I'm gonna pass the ball, yeah? Yeah.
Blowing downhill.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Actually, right before Race to the Top, the grant was approved for the Hawaii Department of Education. The Nanakuli Waianae schools at that time began their collaborative efforts within just the schools themselves, yeah? At that time, we had 9 schools in the complex area, and every school kind of did their own thing. But what the race did was, it gave an opportunities for the schools to get together, and more specifically Ruby, yeah? It was at that point, we're just trying to get the schools together, kind of like getting your whole own house in order first, yeah? We collaborated together with all 9 schools. We collaborated with the public unions, HGA and HSTA. And like Mahi said, yeah, a lot of the decisions were actually already made, and really, we were the recipients of being able to pilot and provide the department with feedback. Yeah, so there weren't a lot of discussions in terms of different options. Yeah, the discussion really was how we're going to implement those initiatives as a complex together. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
One more time. I'm going to take. So as we go forward, though, Ruby, the important part is we will really start to engage more in the community, because the race, this is the last year of the race. It's fall. So what we're going to do is really make sure that, as you saw on our PowerPoint, that community voice, listening to our children, taking into account all of the things that we can gather as a community, and then try to look at how we're going to make our schools better together is our go forward plan. Thank you.
I mean, the bottom line, being the blunt person, the way it works with the federal government, you write what they want you to write, and they decide on how, they tell you how to spend it. And so, was the most efficient way of doing it? No, ma'am. But, you know, it's in our rear view mirror now. We got to move forward. So, could have been done better, should have been done better, yes. Honestly, it should have and could have been done better. But, we're blessed to have gotten it, and I don't know that we got our full $75 million worth, but we got quite a bit of value from it.
I have another question on Hawaiian immersion. This one was for the who.
I'm happy to tackle Hawaiian immersion. I spent 2 hours with that group today.
Oh, wonderful. Can we have our own superintendent for Hawaiian language immersion? And the Aha Kauleo organization is pretty low on the organizational chart of DOE, BOE. Can we make some adjustments there in the future?
Does everybody understand the question? We have state statute that talks about, actually not immersion, it talks about medium of education. And we right now have 19 schools throughout the state that are Hawaiian immersion. And there's a Board of Education Policy, we have 244 policies in the Board of Education. We're going through an audit of all those policies right now to try to understand them, frankly. One of which is the policy on Hawaiian immersion. And frankly, it's not real clear. It's very aspirational. It's not long on. In that policy, it really doesn't mention the word student. So we had that conversation today. So really, it's been running as a pilot for 26 years. And so we're here to declare the pilot is over. Let's get it done. So our job is now to establish a policy that educators, so it really isn't the educator's fault, it's our fault. It's the leadership's fault, because they need direction. Catherine's told me that. She wants to know what is direction. So it's now the responsibility of the Board of Education to define success. That's why we met with the stakeholders today and been meeting every month for the last 4 months. A lot of folks I'm sure you know. And we're making good progress. I'm proud of the effort. So I would say within the next 90 days you'll see new policies coming out. And I'm a very, very major supporter of that program. But we got to execute. Any follow-up questions on that?
Stay there.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Granny.
I'm Granny Grace from Waianae. I've lived in this area for 53 years. I had to move to this area because of a health problem from my child. So, but they all graduated from Waianae. I mean, there was no problems in the beginning. The schools were small, the teachers was good, and we all participated with the teachers. But eventually, when I started to raise my grandchildren, which I have 20 of them, we started having problems. But now with great-grandchildren, I sent them to private school because I couldn't get the response that we needed to educate our children. So I'm glad you admitted you guys are at fault. I'm glad you admitted. Because for years, I've been wanting to knock on your doors, but I said, hey, just ignore it and put them in private schools. But you need to make those corrections because our community has grown. And in order for the schools to get them what they need to help our children, you are responsible for that. Yes. So I hold you to that. I hope we meet again someday. But I have another question for Kamehameha School. Is there a blood quantum? I'm glad to hear that. I'll be seeing you then.
Granny, are you actually referring to the Kapua project?
Yes.
Kalei is affirming there is no blood quantum.
Very good, very good. I have, like I said, I have 31 great-grandchildren.
Yeah, their
And
focus.
yes, I also have over 100 hanais, you know that.
Yes. Their focus is on all the children on the Waianae coast. Yes, from Kahi to Ka'ena, all the children.
Thank you.
Aloha, David.
First of all, Joel, thank you for an opportunity like this. I have 2 questions for the DOE, BOE, and I have 1 question for Kamehameha Schools. First question for DOE, BOE. Is our curriculum in our public schools up to standards with the college and university level? Because, for instance, a student came back after graduating, went to college, straight A student, came back and said she felt dumb in college. You know, because what she learned in high school wasn't up to par with what she was being taught in college. So that's the first question. Second question for you folks is, when are we going to have our schools retrofitted for the disabled individuals, like electronic doors, ramps, and so forth? It's not up to par. And why is the schools up to par in that respect? Because I'm sure, you know, if it was anyone else, they would be fined, you know, for infractions like of this sort, okay? And then for Kamehameha Schools, I hear about learning centers, okay? When are we going to have a complete learning center from womb to the tomb? I mean, we hear for the youth, the keikis, and so forth. But what about the makua and the kupuna? We need an educational center for those as well, especially for electronics and technology. We don't have that, so we need that. Thank you.
Well, the principals are all here. It's a hard question. Okay, this is not on. Is it on?
No, turn on. Just flip it. No, 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 flip it, flip it. No, no, no. It's no, it's like, here you go, here you go. Just turn.
No, it's not.
There you go. I don't want to tap it.
In terms of college readiness, I think you noticed that that was one of the things that we really have to work on. In the past, it's been students go through the school, take a test, maybe they get in, yeah. But whether they were prepared or not was really, we're not real sure, yeah. Currently, what the department is doing is putting a real effort into determining that readiness and getting the schools to prepare better. So this past year, our students took the ACT, the College Board ACT, and that's a college readiness test. So actually now we're really looking at the scores. We're looking at how well our students are doing in terms of college preparedness. You know, so we can actually start to work in the schools to make sure that we fill the gaps before they leave us. Okay, so that's one of the things. The other thing we're looking at is, you know, like the computer digital project that we have. You know, when the students go to the College Opportunities Program at the university, the first thing they do is they put a laptop or a tablet, yeah, in the students' hands. That levels the playing field immensely. We want to be sure that that happens not at that time, when they're already in their first year of college. We want that to happen before they leave us, from the time that they're small children. I see so many of our students, you know, before they even come to us, they're holding the digital devices and they can probably download apps and charge them to their parents, yeah? You know, because they know how. Their brains are wired that way. We need to keep up with that kind of technology and we have to keep up with that kind of learning. That's why we talked about teacher professional development, starting to use and keep up with the world outside so that our students are going to be prepared. The focus is that. We don't want our children to go to college and feel that they're dumb and they're not up to par with what's going on. We want to be sure that they feel ready and that when they're there, they're going to be as competitive as anybody else who's in that first year of college. That's why, you know, we talked about having the Leeward Community College professors on the high school campus. And students actually taking those classes and saying, man, I didn't think I could take the class. But you know, now I know I can take the class. That means I'm not afraid to go register at LCC and take that first step into college. So we want to do those things. So I really appreciate your question. It is something that we're talking about, not only at the high school, but we're talking about it from elementary all the way through high school and beyond. Okay. Now in terms of ADA compliance, it is something that we're constantly looking at. That we need to be sure that we have, you know, all of those things that you're talking about so that accessibility is something that's everywhere in our schools. It's hard to catch up. I know Chair Horner will probably talk about that. There is a program, and each of our schools are supposed, you know, we're looking at making sure that we're compliant. Many of the high schools get some of that first because it's a public venue, that football games and all of that, basketball games. So, you know, they're trying to take care of those things, but it shouldn't stop there. So we'll be more conscious about all the other schools and the other facilities.
I think Kalei.
Just to add to that, 2.5 years ago, we had $650 million in backlog of deferred maintenance in the project. We're down, it's not good enough, but we're down to $200 million today. So we got work to do, Joe.
That's right.
Because we don't print the money, we spend it. So talking about Cisco over here. So, but it's a question of prioritization also. Thank you, sir.
Just repeat the question.
I will holler you for your question. What about community learning centers and when is it going to go from P20 to Twinkle to Recall? I like to say. I thank you for that question. I was salivating when I heard it because you know the 50 slides that I didn't get a chance to talk about was about that. So I want to talk first about our community learning center that we already have that's established in Nanakuli. It's called the Community Learning Center at Nanakuli. And in many ways, that learning center is Twinkle to Recall. We got our babies over there, preschool kids. We don't have anything really for the school-age children because it's a really small facility. It's 2 acres, but we were right at the thick of things, right next to Kamehameha. We just go, just a sidewalk away from Ahapuna Leo. That is a learning center that's been here on this coast for 10 years. It's been so wonderful in that if you've ever been to that learning center, there's this big library area, and every single day it's filled with all kinds of people. Today, we were with teachers from Nanakuli High School, K Fukura from Pals and Places were there, talking about place-based learning and how to do it better. Tomorrow, I don't know who's coming, but it's always filled and there's never any parking. And so we wanted to take the success of that facility and scale it. And so we have an opportunity to scale it to 40 acres. And what can we do with 40 acres? We can really do Twinkle Twinkle. Like Mahi said, we'll be looking at infant and toddler programming in our first phase, really taking care of the youngest. Because really that's where we believe we can, one, there's some urgent need that we'd like to respond to, and two, there's some emergent opportunities that are available in terms of funding for our programs. Once we get the OO in the ground, we're going to be soon, especially if we like opening in the fall of next school year. So we'll have a year to get phase 1 up and running. Just as soon as we're done with phase 1, we're going to start running into some infrastructure challenges, and we're going to have to start negotiating water credits. And if you've ever been a part of a facilities development project, those are the very things that are going to challenge and vex you. But let it be known that that's just phase 1 of 3 phases. And as we go up through phases 2 and 3, you'll see us getting towards deeper and deeper into the pipeline. And so phase 2, really following kind of the needs of the community and serving school-age children by replicating and scaling successful charter school models, student support centers, and then all the way up to phase 3, where we start meeting some adult learning needs through various types of facilities. Well, see, that was deep in my slide deck. I was saving from my back pocket. But absolutely, right? So notice we didn't say Kamehameha community learning centers, right? We said community learning centers. And the community learning centers abound on this coast. And so Ma'o Farms and Kukui folks, they have a community learning center. And we want to be active partners with them, uplift their work. We cannot do it all ourselves. We'd be foolish to think that would be true. Ta'ala Farms and Eric Enos, again, a community learning center. And the more I come out to community meetings, I find out about other community learning centers that are there. So absolutely, enlisting partners, leveraging resources. We talk about collective impact, but I also want to start talking about collective investment. And what role can Kamehameha play in attracting other folks and other resources to invest in community learning centers. Yeah.
And that's something that we really didn't get deep into, and you've kind of heard it a couple of times as Hui Kako. That is a program that is kind of community school based. It's been 2 years formulating. We're still trying to figure where we're going to go with that. So that is being addressed. And Hui Kako will be a separate. Nobody's going to take ownership of it. They're just the funnel. So that is one of the things that we are working on, and that's, as they said, we've done a project at Waianae Intermediate School to address the attendance issues, and they're holding hands with Nanakuli Inter and High on a much broader project up there. And we've got 2 principals biting at the chomp right now. They want in the schools, some with us in the community schools, but we gotta take it slow because we want to create success. We want to jump everywhere and have a failure. So we're taking little baby steps, and baby steps is bringing everybody to the table, and we all agreeing to take the long haul for the next 40 years beyond each and every one of us in this room. Please, your question.
Aloha mai kako, I'm Kai Burley. I finally got home and was able, this is my first step to start my dream of, participating in community events. But I still kind of feel like OPO right now. I see a lot of my old teachers, I'm Auntie Jo, and I don't want to disrespect anybody, but I'm a proud graduate of Waianae High School. And I was just noticing about the budget you was talking about, Auntie Jo, about the SP merged with the T building. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a SP alumni, and I brought home a national recognition my junior year. And I know that SP has been growing nonstop since I was in high school, and we're constantly getting grants all over the place. And this is kind of a spin-off of Uncle Kavika's concern about handicap and my concern about need versus prestige. You know what I'm saying? What I want to know is, how are we choosing where the money goes? Because we're not fully handy capable. And also, when I was a substitute teacher at Waianae the year before last, and I'm reapplying, Mr. Shigeta. This week I'm reapplying. But I substitute for PE, and I noticed the rate of girls participating in PE had gone even more lower from when I was in high school. And then when I was cruising in the locker room, that place is a mess. It's like dirt coming up from under, it's not dirt in the corners, it's dirt coming up from underneath the tile. And the way my mom describes it, it hasn't changed from when she was in high school to when I was in high school. And so I'm just wondering what goes into where we're appropriating these funds as far as, prestige versus need. So I guess that's my question.
Okay, you want one of the firing lines? Oh.
By statute, the principals are supposed to, under Act 51, spend 70% of the money that Joe gives us. And actually the number is, frankly, is about 90%, because in that 30% is quote-unquote head office expense. That includes substitute teachers, that includes bus transportation, that includes food service, that includes utility costs for our schools, it includes Ms. Mahi and her staff. So really the head office is about 6-7%. So the money we get from Joe and to Joe, we give it to the principals so they set the priorities. Now, it isn't enough. It isn't enough.
So I guess the
So they have a
question is
tough time.
priority of where SP sits as opposed to like the girls' locker room and handy capability.
Well, and then that's another challenge, because we put together a very comprehensive capital budget, what our needs are. And frankly, we put safety first, and then student achievement. We go through the list, working with our principal. A lot of work goes into collaboration and stuff. We take that list, we hand it to Joe, and bluntly, the list changes. Right?
Correct.
That's been that way since the Romans were running things.
Yep.
Because, I mean, it's just, we're just folks that's quote unquote spend the money that the appointed officials, they get charged with writing the checks and telling us how to spend it. So the professionals give them a list of what our priorities are, and then they decide on how we are to spend it. And that's just a process. So really, those, when it's capital, if it's R&M or repair and maintenance, that's the principal's kuleana. If it's capital, it's our job to get on the list, and then we give it to your representative, and they help us decide on how it's executed. So really, it's back to the community again of making noise to the principal first and to your legislatures, and that's what happens. And God bless this coast, frankly, you can make more noise. Seriously, right? I mean, it's been too long that you've been shortchanged. Too long.
So basically what he's kind of saying is the DOE, the principals will put in their wish for repairs and maintenance, so tile would be repairs and maintenance. Connection of SP building or a brand new building for CRI.
I'll interrupt the representative, but probably I bet you that slab is cracked, and that's why the dirt's coming through. That's capital.
Yeah.
You know that, you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah, so that
That's when we get into the tile, we find out the slab is cracked.
That's
and
the
everything
big
stops.
construction project.
Correct, correct. So there's different levels of it, and some will come from the principal, some will come from the department that they deem will be needed for particular schools, and quite obviously some come from legislature saying, DOE, you will do this, even though it's not in your parameter. And they get a little upset about that.
No, we don't.
We but again,
Smile.
really, if we don't hear, if I go to my principal and I say, what do you need? And they don't tell me that I want a new building, or they don't tell me that I'm having a problem with my ADA access from classroom to classroom. I don't know. Community members can call and say, hey, we'd like to have one. And I'm not going to say it's the principal's fault for not asking. They may not know either. And then it would be our task to say, how do I take that message forward to the department?
And I come back and start to monopolize, but this is why we're pushing the decision. The best decisions for the Leeward Coast are made on the Leeward Coast, not downtown Honolulu. And that's why we're trying to give the authority to that lady right there. She is the Luna for education. And we're putting them right there. And seriously, the best decisions for Maui are made on Maui, not in Honolulu. So the complex area superintendent for Maui, that person should be making most of the decisions. So we're trying to push the money to the complex area superintendents and the principals, and that's the best place to make that decision.
I don't know if a lot of you know, it really wasn't spoken here, but the DOE just launched a brand new website. It's a lot easier, has a lot of information. Please go look at that. It has our strategic plan, and they work very hard on the strategic plan. We are putting in huge systemic changes within. There was acknowledgement that the system was broken and broken for many, many, many years. It's still kind of broken. We are taking this huge, huge program and doing a little piece at a time. I attend these board meetings and I'm just amazed. They're doing internal audits, auditing themselves to come up with where the problems and challenges are and how do we address them. I'm not going to give them all kudos, but we can only do so much, with the time of the day and the bodies that we have. But the more, and one of them is, they're starting to give more authority to our complex superintendents and our principals. And we are going to be blessed, because I did. When I met her last year, how long you staying? Because really, it could take 2 years to get something. It could take 3 years. It can take 5 years to get something implemented from an idea today. She said, 3 years. That's not long enough. Yeah, then she says, 5 years.
The principals wish that, right?
Then she says 5 years. So I kind of heard 3 weeks ago she might be here 6 years. But we're always racing. If it's not race for the top, it's racing for our great champions. And I'm going to give her kudos. I think we were graciously blessed with somebody who taught on this coastline 30 years ago. Be towards the end of her career. She has been a principal. She has worked in the immersion program. She has probably worked in every department with the DOE. And this is what we get for our coastline. And this is a huge positive for our coastline. Considering I think we went through 3 CASs probably in 3 years prior to her arriving. So that's why I really said, how long you staying? And she came knowing challenges. I called her up about an issue, and I get one problem. A parent called and said, the bathroom smelled like shishi and makaha. She goes, I know exactly what the problem is. I don't know what the problem is. Little children, Joe. She knew exactly. It's the chemicals. Change the chemicals. I know already. I don't need to call her, but I'm going to call her, and she addressed it right then and there. But that's what experience is. I would have never thought of that. I would have been, how can a little bathroom stink? And she's like, no, little children. They go everywhere.
There's an aim.
Yeah, sorry. There's an aim. So, and all she says, all you do is address the chemical issue. It's not whose fault it is. It's simple as that. But to have experience like that within, our CAS, and for her to pick up the phone and call me back within 10 minutes to say, the principal's going to address it, Joe. I'm not sure if we've had that before. So I'm very appreciative of what we have now, especially with Don Horner. I didn't even know him. I knew him from the bank. But when I went to those meetings, I was totally impressed. Some people, the voters requested. We don't want a voted BOE board anymore. We want it appointed. This is your appointed board 2 years now? 2.5 years. So this is what we're seeing. And I think we're creating great changes. Alice? Sorry, I'll get back to questions.
Yeah, mine is not mostly a question. I adopted a boy. He's a drug baby. Yeah. And about 6 months ago, I was told that you got to watch out for him, because once he's going to want to taste the cocaine or the marijuana. And she said, but remember, it's no fault of his own. Well, he did. He got caught. He went to counseling. What I was really angry about was it wasn't done in school, the counseling. It was done in another entity. And that entity had all our high school children. They had attitude, smoking, talking back to the counselor, I mean, this is a different, it's not in the school ground, it's a private entity that they had to attend. I was shocked this year to find out. I think the principal thought I was talking about drugs, but it was about another issue, it was about fighting. And she says, you know, now our school has their own drug counseling program in the school. To me, that's a blessing because our children are not to blame for what their parents had put them through. And to finally come into a school ground with their peers and not somebody older than they are, like intermediate, then you have a mixture of high school guys, they're smoking, they're cussing out the guy and everything else, they're walking out of the class, and this is what my son is learning. But then to turn around and say, no, in our school, we now have drug counselors. To me, that's the best thing could ever happen to our children. I adopted him, and from birth, when I looked at his birth record, you know, everything's supposed to be 1, but there was 2, the number 2 involved, and they said, I need to watch out for that. But I didn't know how I would handle this when the time came. And it's a blessing now that, yes, we're talking about structure, we're talking about everything else, but now the core of the need is that child that has this problem, and I'd like to thank you folks very much.
Thank you, Alice. We'll probably take a couple more questions because I know I'm 45 minutes over time. So, please.
Okay, I have maybe not a quick one, but a question for the educators. Polynesian Voyaging Society starts their round the world tour. Right now they're in Haleiwa, and they'll be going to Kauai, Niihau, then Waianae. Are the schools on Waianae prepared to participate in this? It's going to be like a 5-year journey. They'll be going around the world, and they'll be coming through our community. And talking to some of the students that I was working with the Olelo Media on the other side of Kahuku, while they were interviewing the captain and the crew members, they also went out and did a sample of the water and brought some of the diatoms and whatever was in there, and they were able to show the kids that. And the crew members are made up of all different people that are interested in voyaging. So are the schools in our coast ready to support that? And it's a way of getting the ocean into the classroom and the classroom into the ocean with navigation, because we also, according to Eric, we have the Ayala on our side. That's the Waianae's double hull canoe. And this is a way of making that connection and maybe building that support within the community. So I guess the question is, are you ready? 3 weeks, they'll be in our community.
I'm going to ask some of the principals if they've been contacted regarding the program.
I might have a little bit on that. I do know at Nanakuli High and Intermediate with LCC Waianae. Some of the students over there, they did do a program with Hokulea, and that revolved around credits. And I think each one of these kids passed, every one of them 100%, running this program with Hokulea and learning navigation and voyaging. So it was implemented at Nanakuli High and Intermediate as a innovation startup project, and it was so successful that I think they would like to engage it with other schools, but they have to create that success first. So it has been implemented on this coastline. And Eala, I know with Waianae Hawaiian City Club, with the halau being built at the Waianae Boat Harbor, within a year, I'm sure Nelson with the Waianae High School would be quite interested in running some programs with some of his former students with that program also. It is all being embedded together. Sorry. I see.
We didn't know that the timeline was so short, but we can absolutely mobilize resources.
Yeah, I do know that that program that they ran at Nanakuli High and Intermediate was partially funded through NPEACE, and NPEACE is funded through Kamehameha schools also.
Yeah, just one last thing. They're going to stop at Makua first, then they're going to go to Makaha, then Nanakuli, and then they're going to anchor at Pokai, at the harbor. So that's where a lot of right now in Kailihiwa Harbor, that's where a lot of the community is going, from Kupuna to Keiki to students. And I would hope that we can have a really strong representation of Waianae when Hokulea comes.
And not to leave out our other schools, which is our charter schools. Kamaile Elementary does run a navigation program. They do work with Hokulea, and they're...
They just chartered as a charter school.
Yeah.
We just chartered.
And then I know they're going to be talking with Anel with the Civic Club and working with E'ala. So it has been incorporated in our schools down here. Sir?
Aloha, my name is Mike Sarmiento. Before I say anything, I just want to say I'm not anti-DOE or anything like that. I grew up across the street from Mr. Endo. I work for Nelson. My mom works for Randy. Mrs. Takahashi was my kindergarten and 4th grade teacher. So, you know, I'm not anti-DOE at all. So I just want to make that clear before I say anything. So 2 things. I am a charter school teacher, and I am a charter school parent. I work at Kawaihona. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I feel like this is an opportunity for at least our voice to be heard. We've been on this coast for going on 11 years. We are a public school. We accept kids from Makaha to Nanakuli and beyond. My question is kind of, well, first, twofold. As someone who works at Kawaihona, I want to invite you guys to come to our school, any of you, because I feel like nobody knows who we are, and we do good things, and I want you guys to see it. Sometimes I feel like there's a disconnect, like here's the DOE schools and here's the charter schools. I was at Makaha. I loved working for Nelson most of the time. We're just a school, and we have resources, and you guys, and DOE schools have resources. There's no reason why we can't work together. But a lot of times nobody talks to us, and I don't know why. And maybe it's from the birth of charter schools, where it was kind of this adversarial thing. So that's from my perspective as somebody who works for a charter school. And I want to say, you know, we're looking at our scores. Our scores are good too. We do good things. For 93, our kids are 93% of them are Native Hawaiian. People in this room, their kids come to our school. And so my question is more from a parent. So I want to say it from a parent perspective and not from somebody who works at the school, because at the school we're going to do whatever you give us, that's what we're going to work with, and we're going to make it happen, because that's what charter schools do. But from a parent, I want to understand why my child who goes to that school,
Why is his weighted student form less than a public school child?
why is my child not worth the same thing? Why are those 93% of those kids that are Hawaiians, why are they not worth the same? And I want to answer, I want a straight answer. Because I'm a calm person, but I'm mad. I'm mad because my kids are getting shortchanged, because I work at that school and I know what we could do with that money. And we don't get a fair shake. And that's equity. You want to help kids on this coast, you fund us, you give us the same chance. You give other charter schools the same chance that DOE schools get. You pull our lunch service from us. We pay for our own bus services from our own budget, and we have to ask OHA, we have to ask, thank God for Kamehameha schools. Without them, we don't exist. And we have to bust these kids in on our own dime, which we do, and we make it happen. But as a parent, I want to understand. I want the facts on why. I don't understand how that's legal, for one. And maybe it's too complex for me to understand. But if not, then I want an understanding from you guys who represent us, how that can be.
Everybody understand the question? Yeah. 2 years ago, the chair of the Education Committee, which is Senator Jill Takuda, outstanding legislator, she took on this challenge. If you go back to the beginning of the charter school movement, first off, I'm a major supporter of charter schools, entrepreneurialism, and the choice that we give parents and teachers. But the movement at that time basically said, give us a per pupil funding, no need to worry about capital, because we'll be under treaties. That was what they testified. And that's kind of how the movement began. There's three kinds of schools. There's a regular school, there's a conversion school, and then there's a startup school. So your school is which one of those three? It's not a regular school. It's a charter without, it's not a conversion, correct?
It's a startup.
Yes, sir. Well, just hang on. Stop. And you're the end of the food chain. Because the way it works is the regular school gets weighted student formula and they get a capital. Because we handle that capital budget. The conversion school gets not weighted student formula from the DOE, but they get capital from the DOE. The startup school doesn't get weighted student formula and doesn't get capital.
And why is that?
Exactly. Let me get there. It's not my bad, it's a legislative question. Seriously, and I'm not passing the buck, let me finish. Act 130 really moved charter schools along there. Number one, it defined the role of the Board of Education. Before, I served on the old board, the non-appointed, the elected board, the field and unexpired term. Everybody on that board said, we got nothing to do with charter schools. That was the attitude. Before. And frankly, it was ambiguous. Act 130 says charter schools are kuleana. Those 32 schools, 10,000 children, belong to us. They're equal in the mind of this Board of Education. They're equal. And you're right, they're not being equally funded. But we don't, the way it works is the way the charter school budget works. I went through the whole budget process because we have the privilege of appointing the commission that oversees charter schools. And they got a brand new commission that's been there less than 1 year. You got some outstanding commissioners that agree wholeheartedly with your statement. And so we want to work together with you to lobby these folks to get capital funding for charter schools. Because the way it works now is on the weighted student formula, the charter, they take our total budget and put the number of kids, your kid, and you've got 10,000 kids in conversion and in startups in the charter school movement today. We have roughly 170,000 kids in quote-unquote regular school. They take that ratio, which is about 5%. Whatever the legislature decides to give the DOE, they take 5% of that number. And Budget and Finance gives that money to the charter schools. The money does not come from the Department of Education. It does not. We never see the money. We have nothing to do with the money that the charter schools get. It's a percentage formula based on how much. The less they give us, the less the charter schools. The more we get, the more charter schools get, based on the number of kids. Is it adequate? No, sir. It's not adequate. We need to work towards getting facility funding. But frankly, we need to look at rationalizing the Department of Education assets. We have, and we'll say on our record, we have more classrooms than we got kids. The problem is the classrooms are in the wrong places. So we need to deal with that, right? And the classrooms we got, as I said, are 65 years old. So you're absolutely right, it's a question of equity. It is indeed a question of equity. The job that the charter school movement does, in spite of the system, is miraculous. So you're to be applauded for what you guys do. I think on behalf of kids. But we got work to do. And your voice needs to be heard. It's not a Board of Education responsibility as far as how charter schools get funded. That's between charter schools and the legislators. But we do pay for special ed for your schools. And the issue of transportation is another major issue. The food service, I'm going to let some of the principals address that. That, frankly, never came to the Board of Education. That needs to be revisited.
So I hear you, but in the meantime, there's kids that people have to deal with in school. So when we get around to the meeting about when food service or all of these things, like it's frustrating to me because I pay taxes. So why is my tax dollar, I've been working since I was 16. Shouldn't my children get the same, wherever they go? You know, you guys made charter schools legal, so you said there's a At least from what I know, it's a public school.
Absolutely.
So how can you say this public school, these kids that go to this public school, you're gonna get X amount of dollars, but you guys, since you decided to go to this charter school, now you're gonna get Y number of dollars, and we pay the same taxes.
Well, to understand the way it works, they get exactly what that regular school gets, except for capital. As far as our operating budget, that number of 1.7 billion, they take 5% of that, and that's how much money. The actual, if you want to get down to the math, the weighted student form for a charter school kid is more than the weighted student form we give to the principal. Because in your number is going to be all of our administrative costs also. So it's
So when you put all of that together, then is it equal?
it's absolutely equal between the DOE and charter schools, but not for capital.
So it's not equal?
It's absolutely not equal.
Okay.
But as far as our operating budget and your operating budget, you get a percentage based on the number of kids.
So I guess from a parent perspective, then maybe asking you, Representative Jordan, is as a parent, what can I do then to help break? I'm not here to just yell and scream at people. I want to figure out a solution, but I feel like there is no solution, or I don't know how to be involved, and I work in a charter school.
And I think that's where some of the challenge is. Because I think these charter schools were created so long ago, nobody really revisited them since they were started. We had a lot of issues that came up in the news on the board that governed them, and and finally, Senator Takuda, as Chair Horner has said, we need to get a handle on this. We need to start making some of the charter schools accountable, because you had some rotten eggs making the good ones look bad. So, whatever. So I guess she revisited a lot of that, and really she does. She looks at the statutes, she came up with a bill. I don't think she was actually looking at the funding just yet. She was looking at the makeup of them.
I just make the case for my charter school brothers and sisters. Some of those charter schools are immersion schools.
Yeah.
And the reason that they, quote, look bad is because the, quote, the Hawai'i test we gave them, that test was not the appropriate test that we're measuring on. So they're, quote, junk because we gave them a test that isn't in line. It's a conversion test. So it isn't really fair to judge them on metrics that aren't appropriate for those schools. So we got to look at what the math is. And we got some outstanding charter schools, especially in the immersion schools. And in schools like yours. So the problem is not with conversion schools, they're fine, but they're getting capital. The challenge is about 18, and those are the most challenged, because they started with no capital, they started with an idea, started with passion. A lot of very dedicated folks that are so passionate about their kids and doing wonderful work. Many of those schools are fully accredited. If you look at our top list when we graded all the schools in the newspaper, the only high school that made the #1 list was a charter school. And so we need to figure it out primarily for the startup schools. And I'm not lobbying for that today with the legislature, but it's certainly a amount of fun to help you get through the tough times. So it isn't a matter of building big buildings, but we should have some fun. In fact, the commission actually, we give them, in addition to what the legislature gives, we also get impact aid. We get like $40 million of impact aid. That too, we take the same percentage of $40 million that goes to the commission. So that money, they put some aside for emergency funding for our startups. They're beginning to think that through. So we got work to do, but your voice is important. Thank you.
But I think where you need to focus that is at us, really. Because there's only so many people that sit on the education committees that get all this information. That's usually 5 to 10 individuals on the Senate and the House side. And nobody on those school, education committees sit on the finance committee. There's a disconnect with us. And I certainly acknowledge that this year, because I started going, wait a minute, and I started, even in our finance meetings that we're having right now during off session, I started barking for what they need, the DOE needs. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a dysfunction here, and I don't know how that's going to be changed. So the more legislators we can educate on what is the discrepancies, I think that's when you're gonna get more of us asking those tough questions to our finance chairs and saying, hey, we need to change some formulas to help them.
Yeah, just to make, because it's such a myth, it's an urban legend. The Department of Education does not control the charter schools' budget. That number is simply a percentage formula done by what's called BNF, Budget and Finance, at the executive level. They compute it, and that money is given straight to the commission. So you have your own, quote, Board of Education, which is the commission. And they're the ones that have accountability. That's their kuleana for charter schools. It's really independent. But what we've done is we've asked the CASs to get more involved in those charter schools, because it's a community. This community is blessed by several very outstanding charter schools along this coast. And comes alongside, and the principals work in community for those kids to go back and forth, et cetera. That didn't happen. The complex area superintendents today we have embraced charter schools. Our superintendent is an advocate for charter schools. That was not always the case. This board is an advocate for charter schools. Ask the commission. So we're going there with you. We don't see it as a win-lose. If charter school gets an extra dollar, it's not coming out of our pocket. It's coming out of the legislature's pocket. Those, as you say, those kids are precious, just as precious as any other kid in the system.
Kapua?
Aloha, o wau kapua Kailihiwa kamai. Noho au I ka aina ho o pula pula ka awawa Waianae. Ko ukeiki wahine elua, hele ana laua I ke halau, kumana I makiki. Mamua pela kula, ua hele laua I ke kula kaiapuni o Waiau. Mamua pela, ua hele laua I ke kula kaiapuni o Nanakuli. No ka mea e hele ana laua I makiki I kia manawa. No ke aha. Ka mea a ole mai kai I na kula kaiapuni I Olelo Hawai'i wale no. I ke la mau kula kaiapuni, Olelo la ko haole me Olelo Hawai'i. Aka, I ke kula kaiapuni, Olelo Hawai'i wale no. Aka, a ole pela. Aloha, my name's Kapua. Thank you for coming, Mr. Horner. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ann and Joe, especially for hosting this wonderful meeting. Charter school. My babies are currently going to charter school now. Why? When we, the parents, wanted them to take the immersion route, when we will send them further and further away to get the best education that we feel is available for them, is because the immersion programs we feel are not servicing them properly. It's not doing what the Kapapahana Kaiapuni Hawaii is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be all Hawaiian until their 5th grade. And then at 5th grade, 1 hour of English. Not English every day throughout the day or as needed, but that is what our children experience at Nanakuli and sometimes at Waiau. That's not acceptable to an immersion parent. That's an opportunity that we did not have when we went to school. Waianae High School graduate. If you were there in '79, I was there with you. So they're at a charter school. And like brother over here, I don't agree with the disparity in funding. So I thank you for pointing it out that it's the legislators' kuleana to repair that. But I have attended many education committee meetings where many times we point out the disparity in the funding, and yet that disparity still exists to this date. What was taken up is the management of the accountability of the charter schools. This type of focus could have, should have been looked upon our DOE schools, which have been in existence for over 100 years. Yet this type of focus did not occur for the larger group. where the larger group really needs to be served. When we talk about race to the top, that only talks about a segment of the group. Again, it excludes our charter schools. You know, so some of these fundings that are coming in, the charter schools, our charter schools aren't recipients of that. They're in the zones, they're part of the Waianae Moku, but they are excluded. You know, that type of disparity is just really not acceptable. I remember many years ago when there was a wonderful BOE meeting at Nanakapono, and we talked about charter schools because charter schools was still up and coming, kind of new. And at that time, my biggest concern was what I would call and refer to as the persecution of the DOE teacher who left the DOE system and went to the charter school. You know, it's like, we've got you, and for you to leave, to be so creative, to think something more innovative, to think of a better plan than what we already have set for you. We have this table, but you want to go and make your own table. To me, that was like so government, so controlling, so short-sighted, that's why our charter schools had to say, just give us money for the students, we'll take care of the rest. But in reality, is that a reality? No, it's not. Yet, the legislature continues to allow this to occur. You know, so Joe, I really look forward to you and our senator, as well as Karen from Nanakuli, to work on this, whether they're part of the education or the finance committee or the ways and means. You know, so really focusing on our legislature. But it is so, went over the top on that conversation. So that was a charter school segue that came up while I was waiting. But the real earlier reason that I had come up was for the BOE policy 2105 having to do with Hawaiian language immersion.
I got my bodyguard back there. You, brother, come.
Yes. Kalei is excellent. I'm glad to know him and to receive some of his mana'o. But regarding our immersion school, we've been out here, it opened up in Makaha in 1995. It is now 2013. We are still a K-6 program, currently residing in Nanakuli Elementary. That school has such a low enrollment. It's so kaumaha that how can we be the center of the most Hawaiians in the world and have one of the smallest immersion schools?
We have no school on the other side in Waimanalo at all, nothing.
They have Puahala and Kaneohe. So they have to travel, what, maybe 15, 20 minutes opposed to anywhere from 45 to an hour? Right, so our babies, in order for them to continue their education, they have to go all the way to Palolo to continue that. So I'm asking you to help us to bring grades 7 to 12 out here, because we have been in existence for 18 years in this community. We lose our babies because the program isn't what we expected, it's not holding up, or maybe our babies aren't so inclined anymore. But I believe that if we can offer our own K-12 out here, you build it, the people will come. Thank you.
We are working on the 7 to 12.
Well, won't you tell them where we are if you know where we are? Thanks to this gentleman.
Please identify yourself, Kailihiwa.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, a little bit taller, okay.
I think, yeah. Yeah, my name is Kailihiwa Krug. Faculty at the University of Hawaii Manoa, a resident of Lu'ulu'ulei. I think, you know, and part of the discussions, because that's what we're engaged in right now, is trying to help the Board of Education and the department run a tighter ship when it comes to our language and culture. Because I think the good part about having people here is that You can talk about broad ideologies, broad philosophies, because the philosophy for me and what we're trying to get at is how to legitimize our language and culture through education. So charter schools, I think, was part of that movement, that the system wasn't doing it. And to me, the system, admittedly, still not doing it. So it's part of working together right now, trying to get through that and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And even when it comes to, public's perception of Hawaiian language and culture, understanding that it's a constitutional mandate, understanding that we have 2 official languages in our state, and fiscally, is there equity and responsibility with how we engage in both languages? And I can tell you, no, absolutely not. So that's the movement, is how do we get the board, the DOE, us as a kaiaulu, all the principals, every member to understand that philosophically, Hawaiian language and Hawaiian culture can breed academically successful children. So those questions of student achievement, for me, and Don, he knows that, all my questions are gonna be, what does that mean? What does that mean? To who? Because all the tests that are coming out, all the movements in the department are shooting for a mediocre student in Idaho. Why do we in Hawaii wanna be that? We should have our own way. We should have and believe in our own language and our own culture and let that become our measure of success, not the measure of success from outside of our aina. So that to me is what's going on, and changing policy is the first step. Mahalo.
Amen. We've been working, I don't know how many meetings now. I think we got about 3 more meetings to go before that policy gets changed. 2304 and 2305.
Do you have another question? Because we're going to have to wrap it up.
And I might just say, on that part, where the disconnects has been for those 26 years, it's been a pilot, and it's been been parent-centric rather than professional-centric. And so we
Rather than
engage
what?
those professional, meaning that it's our bad. Because if you read 2105 and 2104, I don't understand it. So I don't know how to expect the superintendent, the complex area superintendents, and the principals to execute if we don't give them clear direction and funding. That's our kuleana. That's our bad. And that's why I've enlisted this gentleman and 8 or 9 of the other folks that know a lot more about this than the Board of Education does. We need their monopoly to basically, for us to make an intelligent decision. And we've been doing that for about 6 months now, once a month, a meeting. I get beat up by that guy once a month. But slowly I'm learning, and we'll get this right.
Go ahead, question, because, we're over time. I know they're staring me down.
I'm a DOE teacher. I've been blessed for 8 of my 9 years teaching in Hawaii to be teaching on the Waianae coast. I took 1 year off to go teach in Kona because my grandson over there. But I like to say, and I notice I'm falling into pigeons, sorry, I do that when I'm tired. The initiatives of Race to the Top have made me a much better teacher. The kinds of things we're required to do and that we grumble about sometimes because it's a change and change is hard, have made me a much better teacher. Data teams are fabulous. It's wonderful to collaborate with your peers. That didn't happen when I started in Hawaii in 2005. But I have a question. Can we have iPads too? When you give them to our kids, can we get them too? Okay, good.
So in planning with the principals, we said we have to be sure that we get the iPads into the hands of the teachers, start doing the professional development, flip that education in the classroom, and at the same time work to create our parent academy so we can work with our parents on how we can start to learn about the computer so they can help and support their children at home.
And why don't you explain that you folks are even going to go visit the private schools and find out how they're doing? I mean, that's
Well, not only the private schools here. Our principals are so phenomenal that we're talking about doing research across the nation to see, like in North Carolina, they had a one-to-one rollout. What kinds of things did they learn and how can we learn from them? We're also invited to the Iolani Leadership Summit. And so I've asked each school to put together a team to go down, and we're going to listen to national speakers and learn about how we can best put our program together as well. So we have to do our job before we can really help and support our teachers and then get it out into the community and into the hands of children.
The reason I bring it up, that's a cultural shift in the department in some ways. To reach outside and not say we're going to build our own, to actually go to those dreaded IOH schools and learn. They do some things well. In this, they're ahead of us in technology, frankly. And so it's good to learn from, and as well as a lot, absolutely, absolutely. My job, our job, is to get those parents' children out of those private schools into the public schools, so they save that $20,000 a year. That's our job.
Okay, Cedric, I will end with you. Please keep it short, because,
Awesome.
people
Awesome.
need to get up in the morning.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in the morning, and so does the guest.
Thank you for taking my question. My name is Cedric Gates. I'm on the vice chair of the Waianae Neighborhood Board, also the founder of a nonprofit organization fighting childhood obesity. I had one quick question regarding the school statewide lunch cycle menu, and about what you guys are doing to encourage healthy living and healthy eating in the schools.
We just had the vice principal just went to a training today, and we make sure that we talk about the lunch program, and there are federal requirements with the lunch program. But we also today had our Leeward District Physical Health and Physical Fitness resource teacher come on board and talk about the kinds of things we need to put in place in our schools so that children actually have a well-rounded opportunity to not only eat healthy, learn about fruits and vegetables and things like that, but also to engage in recess activities, that are structured and safe, and actually get them up and moving. And, one of the things that we've asked our principals to do is look at the kinds of things that they have at their school, get the kind of equipment that can foster that kind of workout for kids, and actually bring it to their committees, health and wellness committees, and start to put those programs in place.
Okay. Are all DOE schools required to have a wellness committee in the schools?
I'm waiting for them to all nod their head. Well, yes, you see that, yes.
Okay, well,
Safety and health and wellness.
Okay.
And we're nationally ranked in nutrition. It is a real effort. And I think some of our schools have their, what is that program? I'm sorry, the fruits. What is it
The 5
called?
fruits a day?
Yeah, no, what is it? The fresh fruit program. So actually, because we kind of realize that sometimes children may not have access to all different kinds of fruits. Like, I didn't even know what dragon fruit was.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not going to eat that if we don't know what it is, right?
Okay.
So actually, the schools participate in the fresh fruit program, where different kinds of fruits are brought, and it's prepared, and the children have an opportunity to eat all kinds of different fruits on campus. And it's a federal program, right? Federal lunch program.
Okay, last question. For the statewide lunch program menu, the cycle menu, it really looks like to me like a fast food restaurant menu. And that was the upsetting part to me. And one thing I would like for you to tell us is, how can community members and parents be involved on changing these menus to a healthier and more sustainable?
Principals? Yeah, you want to tackle that?
I will tell you why. That's a good question. But again, that's what the board's trying to do, is push that to the principal, because the food service is a kuleana of the principal. I'm not going to try to micromanage. I'll give you one example of Waipahu High School.
Okay.
They had the same problem. Kids weren't eating lunch. They did a huge survey. They had the kids design the lunch menu. The bento, et cetera, they're almost doubled in participation. So my only is get the kids involved in that decision. But bottom line is, that's your job, is to talk to your principal.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Fair?
Thank you. I could probably add a lot more onto that, but we are way behind schedule. I know I was getting the looks for quite a while. Thank you to each and every one of you who came out this evening. If you do have more questions, our contact information is on that sheet that you were given to do your little survey. You can tear off the top half, keep it. You think about something tomorrow, next week, next month, next session, but before next session, because we start getting things prepared in November for next session, arguing points. So please feel free to call me. If I don't have the answer, we will get it for you. You know, I'd like to thank Lehua, my office manager, for staying with us all evening. She does a lot of my work behind me. She does a lot of the calling for me and handles a lot of work with Mr. Endo, who's with the high school and some of their projects. So thank you all for coming. I truly appreciate you spending the extra time. I want to thank Chair Horner very much for coming out. I want to thank Ann Mahi, our CAS, and of course, all you got to do is go on the website. Her phone number is there. She's located in Kapolei. Call her. Yes. Yes, it is. What, 692-8000? There you go. There you go, 692-8000, please. The website is really nice now, and thank you very much, Kalei, with Kamehameha Schools and the Kapua Initiative. I truly appreciate you listening to the community, revamping, and we still got a lot of work to do, but as you can see, there's a lot of this information being flooded at you real rapidly. If you want to know more about it, please just ask. If you have a question on what was said, there is a lot going on in our community. The DOE, Kamehameha Schools, our partners out there have heard us all for so many years. It is finally coming together, all the stars. We need everybody to continue that movement forward. And it takes you guys just as much as me. And I expect you guys to come and ask. And then when I ask you to go talk to other legislators, I want that help. Because I can only scream at them so much. But when they see the faces and the changes that it'll make, they begin to understand. And believe me, a lot of those legislators don't understand our coastline. The first thing I learned walking in there was, we're an island on an island. We have so many neighbor island issues, but they still think of us as Oahu, and they treat us like Honolulu. So we need to keep reminding them that. We have a sense of place. So we just gotta remind them we need a little bit more for our community, and that's on all levels. So I appreciate you staying a little bit later. I appreciate your support. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Aloha.